Ha! All right. Well, is this thing on? The music has to come down. All right. Hey, everybody. Is everybody here? Who's here? Call out if you're here. Albert, we've been staring at the blank TV waiting. I was actually running a little late. But Kim Anderson and Michelle or Michael Asbuth. Hey Kim. Your cousin Albert and other people are over on my YouTube channel, which is then I'm the only one here. You don't know, you gotta understand. For me, it makes sense that y'all should be the only ones here. Like, if a man streams alone in the forest and nobody hears, is there even an analogy or metaphor here? Or is that way too much of a stretch? So, I was messing with a lot of... Oh, I know why. My audio cut out. I changed some things. Let me fix that. I'm going to cut to that shot. And I have to... Oh, you know what? Wait, I can do it. I can fix that shot. I don't have to be in that shot to fix it. You're right. I have a new audio source, and I didn't add it to that scene, I guess. So, add existing. Thank you for pointing that out, John. And there it is. So now... So now I have audio in this scene too, right? Okay. Yeah, I might have to check. I'm doing several things differently, and... Well, here, let me do... It wouldn't be me if we didn't just... Let me do this test. This looks like it's in sync, of course. I hope. But I'm going to bring in a second microphone. And now, this is the second microphone. And these two audio sources have to be in sync. And now I'm going to lose that one. And then I want to see what happened. But anyway, how are you all? Scott Hewler. Hold on. I have to hear this for myself. Sound is back. John O. Kevin Kataoka is out there. Let me just hear this. Don't tell me there was an echo. Shit. Now, they're in sync. What sounded like an echo was just that I'm far away from the other mic. But when I clapped, it sounded like one clap, right? In 10 minutes, it will be 20, 20, 20, 20, 20 in military time. Is that right? It'll be 10 p.m. would be in 10 minutes. Oh, not here, John. Not in my time zone. I was trying to figure out how that... What do you mean in 10 minutes? Oh, 2020. Yeah, here it'll be 9:20, which is 21. But in Texas, in 10 minutes, it'll be 20, 20, and 20 seconds in 2020. Central time zone. Blue says, can't stay for long, Brian, but much love your way. Well, thank you so much. And JD, don't even say that. When I listened to that, the clapping sounded like one clap, right? Don't fuck with me, man. Hewler, Scott, if you're still out there, I try to get people to watch over on my YouTube channel, and that's where most of the people are chatting. So you won't see a lot of chatting on Facebook because I've dragged everyone over here. And then my YouTube channel is Science Comedian, youtube.com/Science Comedian. So come on over, say hello. Surely you have a YouTube account. I don't know how you spend your time if you don't have a YouTube account. Netreamer, did you just say we could hear the difference between your voice getting into two mics? No. The point was that I don't think the two mics sounded separate. It didn't sound like one clap. You people have to be lying. I don't believe you. Okay. I only have these two. Now there's two microphones. I'm going to cry if this is the case. Let's take the music off. Now, let me hear. You have to be lying. Just hold on. I only have these two. Now there's two microphones. Yeah. I'm going to cry. But the clap. Let's take the music off. Here. Come on. That does not sound like two claps. That does sound like a single clap. So I think those are in sync. The second mic, the second mic is not a bad mic. It's this. It's a Yeti Blue. But where it was sitting in relation to my voice wasn't good. Oh, shit. It's still on. It doesn't sound bad if I'm right here, though, Bo. It's not a bad mic if you're right up, all up in its shit. It's not a bad mic. The other mic is up here. But I had this mic set way back here, out of my way, around echoey stuff. But we don't need that mic anyway. We don't need to sound like a robot. And that's what somebody said, it sounded like a robot. So life's the same, except for my shoes. I'm moving. Where to? In stereo. I just had some, the reason that I'm flustered. Hold on. Phase issue on the clap from the two mics. Digital mic adds a few. Well, we have only, no. The intention, the two mics are only to test the syncing. You know what? Here, I'll dispense with this. I'll just tell you that since the last time I streamed, I've done a lot of tests, and I could never get the thing that should work working, which is the good microphone going into the camera and coming into my computer through the Thunderbolt port and through a device by Blackmagic, a company that makes good shit, supposedly. So for some reason, the audio and video, so it might be at the heart of all the sync issues I've had. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if these issues were this far back in the system that it had to do with this audio and my camera coming into the machine before I even streamed. Like, it had nothing to do with Facebook and the internet and Restream and all those things. If that's the case. So, you guys are distracting me with your comments. But I finally, I never solved the problem, but I discovered something important, and that is that if I connected some other microphones, the video was in sync with the other microphones coming in as USB. It's only the audio that was out of sync. So the problem has been, how do I get my good audio to sync with everything else? Because apparently it was out of sync. So I'm bringing it in a different way. The only reason I have two microphones, and only one is on right now, there's no intention of having two, unless I had two people. The second microphone, everyone stand down. It's only there because it's a real easy way to test the sync that has nothing to do with the streaming or anything else. Two microphones, both plugged into the USB, and if they're in sync, and I'm assuming everything is in sync with the video. So if anything is out of sync with the video, then that's another problem. That doesn't look out of sync, does it? All right. You guys got me worried. And also, I should be turning the volume down on that. So anyway, enough of that. The real thing is, I actually have some new tech gear on order. Most of it is back ordered. Since every comedian, musician, artist, scientist, human, everyone is live streaming, and some of them are buying equipment. And every device that I want to bring in other sources into my computer is on back order. Nothing's available. So Elizabeth Hayes, where's Brian been? Albert, why are you saying micro? Oh yeah, you're talking to Darla. I get it. It looks like R2-D2 and a Hitachi had a baby. Well, they probably did. But if you don't know, this is a well-known, it's a popular model mic. Haven't you seen these? It's by Blue. It's called the Yeti. And it's very popular amongst podcasters and that crowd. It's actually pretty cool. It has 4 different, you can set the audio pattern, what do you call it? To 4 different patterns. So like I almost only use it where it's very directional towards me. But if I was sitting across from someone and doing an interview, you could have 2 areas, and you could also make it wider, like all around. So you can change the pickup pattern. Maybe that's what the term is I'm looking for. Things Brian should tell. Okay, so here's what happened today. The time got away from me because a neighbor came over and we talked at a relatively safe distance. Who knows, really? We'll know in 2 weeks if the distance was safe enough. But we were chatting, and I thought I had about an hour, and I checked the time, and it was 10 to 9. And I wasn't ready, and I had to mess with some settings on the computer. So, Russ Forbes, thanks for tuning in, dude. Getting a lot of tech talk out of the way. But I don't have anything else because I was talking to my neighbor, and the next thing I know, it was time to come in here and start this. And so you're all just having dirty talk anyway. How's the picture quality? Here's some things that I will need to know. If there's any, like, burps or blips or anything like that, let me know, because there shouldn't be. JD Mac, just out of curiosity, is the Blackmagic Design A10 Mini camera switcher one of the items you wanted that's back ordered? It took me a month. You finally got one? Yes. But you know what? There's a new model, the A10 Mini Pro. It's twice as expensive, but it's a new item and it's back ordered constantly as well. Where did you order from, JD? And how long? So you know what I did? There are a couple big places to order gear from, like B&H Photo and Adorama is another one. But those are very popular ones. I looked for some other vendors, and there was one in North Carolina that was like a smaller video company. And I called them, and I asked them if they had any, because at Adorama and B&H, you can place an order, but you're in line. They are back ordered with tons of people on the waiting list in front of you. So I found a place, and I just called them on a hunch, and they expect to get some next week. And he said there's only like 3 or 4 people on a waiting list, and they expect to get more than that. So that, yeah, I might be getting something like that. Where's the windscreen? You guys, all right. You know, it's one thing when the host brings this show into the gutter, but yeah, I'm not going to make any claims that I thought we were better than that. We're not better than anything. We're not better than anything. We don't talk about the windscreen. Somehow there's a moil, and it's like, Jews don't have their windscreens. And a lot of Americans don't. We get those removed early on. What's bad is Albert and I aren't consulting before we post. Are you saying the same jokes? NetReamer says, regarding the distance for your neighbor, you will only know if the distance was enough in 2 weeks if one of you gets sick and not 2 or 0 of you. I know. That's true. You know, I was thinking like, Albert, your cousin, my neighbors, they have a routine, and they'll order pizza on Sunday nights, and they ordered some last night, and we were joking about one day we'll have pizza together again. And I was like, in 2 weeks, if none of us are sick, then we'll know that we could have had pizza together 2 weeks before. How about that logic? It's like all the things that you didn't do 2 weeks ago, turns out you could have done if none of you are sick. Thank you. The microphone pickup pattern, yeah. JD, Mac Business Solutions in Gaithersburg, I was on their wait list. So was that also, did you purposely choose a lesser known place that would have a lower? I wonder how long you waited. Reg says, no dropped frames, no blips, so far so good. Yeah, you know, well, here's one of the things I'm doing different. Let me see something. So, since Facebook only likes 720p and not 1080 lines of resolution anyway, I'm bringing in the video as 720. Everything is being done in 720. Now, my CPU usage is actually higher than normal. I don't know why. But I was in a hurry. We're streaming at a decent bit rate. Everything's green, no dropped frames. All right. But the thing is, here's what I'm crossing my fingers for. I'm not 100% optimistic because have you seen other out of sync videos on Facebook? Facebook Live videos that later on replay are out of sync. I've seen a ton of them, and some of them were people just using an iPhone or using a mobile device. It was obvious they were just using a mobile device, they streamed something, and later it was out of sync. So I don't know what caused their problems, separate from my gear, but now I'm bringing the audio and the video in a different way, and so it's like upstream or upstream of everything, I've done something like, I think that everything should be in sync, and hopefully it never goes out of sync. Damn it. All right, so here's one of the things I was talking to my neighbors about. So let's talk food for a second. Could we? Albert, Susan, I'd like to hear what you had. Unless I already saw it on Facebook, I'd like to hear what you had. And, you know, it's so pathetic what I've been subsisting on because I'm not a very creative cook and I haven't been eating out very much. I haven't been going to my favorite restaurants. Although my sister lives in Georgia and they're reopening stuff. And a story came out in Forbes today that said since they've reopened, the risk of exposure to the virus has gone up 40% or more in Georgia since they've reopened stuff. It's not clear to me what that means, but it's not good. What it means is the number of cases in the state. It's related to the number of cases in the state, and it's increased. So it probably wasn't the best time to open up. But we were joking about food, and I might have gotten a couple new jokes out of it, because one of the things I said that I need to write down is that my neighbor was not raised with much junk food, and I was raised very differently from that. And maybe I eat a little less now, but what I said was I grew up on junk food. It was like family. And what was that burger, Albert? It looked really good. Oh yeah, the colored light. Hold on. Consider your audience. Don't talk. By the way, audience, beautiful, actual. Don't slobber on the love job. We're all paying up. Hindsight. Albert, I don't know what that meant. Darla Bryan's not. Explains the lost windscreen. All right. I feel left out in my own show. I see you guys talking, and if I don't know what you're talking about, I feel left out. Your host feels left out. Hold on. Did that do anything? Yeah, hold on. That's a little too bright. Is that a little too bright? And that's not bright enough? Can you even tell it's on? It's a blood red moon. Himalaya. Probably stay out of Georgia. I post quarantine cuisine on my Facebook every day. There's already been 100 messages. Susan, I made ham and pasta with white cheese sauce, garden peas for me, and Brussels sprouts for Albert. I may do peach rolls or blueberry biscuits later. You made all that stuff? Why do y'all even go out to eat so much if you can make stuff that good? And I'm assuming it's good. Oh my God. While I'm over here subsisting on cheese, string cheese, and peanuts. I've eaten, since the quarantine began, too many dry roasted peanuts. And, well, I can't say too many because they're our sponsor, String Cheese, for lovers of physics and cheese. We'll save it for a good time later. So I did have a couple things I wanted to talk to you about. Let's see. Oh, yes. I also think there might be a joke in, she said that they didn't keep soda in their house. And then I was like, well, we didn't either because we drank it so fast, we couldn't keep it in the house. It was hard to keep it fully stocked. Oh, I never did check it over here. Looks pretty good. Says we're live. Says like 15 people are watching. Oh no. Hey, the mic is in the shot, guys. Speaking of microphones, isn't this it right here? It is. Hold on. There we go. Did anyone notice that? It's the classic gaff, like, it doesn't really matter. Oh my God, do you think he noticed that the mic was in the shot? Look how... I'm gonna say nothing, and you guys go write all your jokes. You just write all the jokes you want, and I'm not having any part of it. Oh crap! All right. Hey. Oh, there are new comments. Oh. Texas is open to restaurants and retail, not bars yet. You know, I'm just gonna say, I think most of you know this. I'm not. I don't want to be paranoid, but maybe the next few weeks would be safest to just stay indoors a little extra. Stay away from other humans a little extra, just to see how this plays out. We're already in it this far. Let's go a little further, be a little tentative about hugging, and live long and prosper. Keep your distance. We need to set up a Zoom meeting so we can communicate in real time. Oh, like, JD, are you even saying like that this should be a Zoom meeting, or side by side a Zoom meeting? Yeah, the problem is, JD, it's like you can't get a capture device. I'm not sure how much my laptop can do, and I'm gonna have to have another machine feed some things. Like if I want to do a Skype call or a Zoom call, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to do that on a separate machine and bring it in as a source, or bring this in as a source, whichever way it is. I think there's a limit to how much my laptop can do, and I've thought about, I'm not ready to invest in a big, beefy new, especially Macs are so expensive for the power. Albert, you know what I'm talking about? Albert, do you have a super powerful Mac? Because I know that, Albert, you know what I like about you, Albert? You have a flexible mind. So, because not only are you a former Republican, and I know you'd still almost like to identify as a Republican, and it's not you that changed, it's the party that changed. But when the party changed, you were like, oh, well, this is not me. And I mean, I don't know if that's flexible or inflexible, but you're like, you wouldn't vote, you won't vote for that party because they no longer represented your views ever since Tea Party days. But I was just realizing, like, in the early days, you were totally a PC guy, right? Didn't you even have, like most people, an anti-Mac bias? And but you changed your mind about that too. And I know you're very pro-Mac, but I think in the early days, weren't you pretty devoted to PC? So I respect that ability to change your mind. But my friend, that is not considered a conservative trait. It's considered a liberal trait. But I think you're like, is it you have some liberal tendencies and maybe some conservative ones. Is that the thing? Is that my understanding? Or, I mean, does it even matter if it's my understanding? Does it have anything to do with reality? Yeah, John, I hope you're being safe. When comes the string cheese? Tease. I do encourage you to chat. But then I don't know what I'm supposed to do. One day this will be a show. If we could hammer out all these tech problems, this will be a show. The show of shows. Colored lights can hypnotize. No one else's eyes. Oh, woman. Da 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 da. Here comes the string cheese. Oh, happy May the 4th, everybody. How come it took this long? How geeky a show is this when we just got around to it? It's been May 4th this whole time. It's only May 4th for a couple more hours in this time zone. May the 4th be with you. Don't throw things. Zoom meeting. You all want to have a Zoom meeting. Well, I hope you invite me if you have one. Elizabeth had Hot Pockets. She regrets it already and will for the rest of the night. Not your life, though. Well, quit jacking with it. Brian seems very well acquainted with the microphone. People say lots of bars are trying to reopen as restaurants. Ugh. You know what? You'll see these restrictions. I just saw some restrictions. Maybe it's right here. Listen to this. Essentially greater risk, incubation period, while not conclusive. Shoot, I thought it was wrong article. Anyway, it was something like the rules were they open the restaurant. They have to take people's temperatures. They have to ask them a little bit about their contact history. I'm not clear on that part. And then, of course, you can't seat the whole restaurant. And they can't have their employees wear only one pair of gloves the whole day. So they got to go through multiple pairs of gloves. So when you have to take all these precautions, what I'm hearing is we shouldn't be open, right? We can only be open to half or a third or fourth capacity. We have to follow all these ridiculous extra restraints. I mean, what it's all saying is we really should just be closed and let the death rate drop a little. I don't know. What do I know? This should be a Zoom meeting. Everybody mute yourself. No, don't mute yourselves. It's okay. Oh, Darla left for food. Damn. Albert's got a MacBook Pro that's 6 or 7. That's what I have. My MacBook Pro is a mid 2014. Mid 2014. So, yep. Mine's about 6 years old. Bo, the Hackintosh business, Mac OS on PC, I haven't heard any talk of that in so many years. Can you really get a lot more bang for your buck? But then does it have the stability of a real Mac? Which they are pretty dependable. I don't want to switch to a PC because I'm so unfamiliar with them at this point, but I could get a beefy one. But boy, Macs are expensive. But I do need to get another machine. Hey, here's one tech problem I ran into that my sister sent me an old laptop. And it's like from 2015. And it was running so slow that if you tried to open a window, just a Finder window, any task like that could take a minute or several minutes. Open a document forever. So when I got it, I thought I might explore it a little, but it was immediately like, that's the problem. So I was like, I'm going to wipe the OS, wipe the drive, reinstall the OS, and see if that fixes it. So I wiped the drive and used the internal disk utility business. And when it went to reinstall the OS, it was lying. She had upgraded since then, but it was what was built in and was prepared to restore was lying. And it failed. It said that it couldn't find some files. I forget what the exact words were. I forget, but it said, can't download the additional components needed to install Mac OS X. And it was trying to install Mac OS X Lion. And I tried multiple times, didn't work. Somebody suggested a fix that was way above my pay grade. So, this old laptop, it does have a CD drive. If I had a disk with an OS on it. So you geeks out there, does anyone have a solution for me? I think what it does, it had to be connected to the internet to do this. And it went looking for some files, and I think they're no longer there. And I can try calling Apple, but that machine is way out of warranty. But it just doesn't seem right, and it's too bad Apple stores are closed. The one here is. So I'm going to scroll down and catch up there. I'll look at your link later, Bo. Thank you. JD says it's Dave Brubeck Day. Yeah, Albert was a PC guy, as I said. I designed them and I have the patents to prove it. And Mac OS won me over. Yeah, me too. I started on a Mac. My first computer. Now I know that our friend Chuck had an Apple II or Apple IIe or something, and I don't know. He didn't have that when we were in high school, did he? Was it more like college? Somewhere towards the end of high school or beginning of college. But I didn't get. Oh yeah, he probably did have it in high school, but I didn't get mine until 1984. I got the original Macintosh because of the Ridley Scott commercial. No, I got from 1984 from 1984, I got my first Mac, and then I got a series of Macs all the way until 1999. And when I did my old streaming video talk show, the company we were working with, their device interfaced with a PC, and I needed a new machine, and it just made sense that I get a PC at that point. So from 99, for a few years, I was a PC guy. But then I came crawling back to Mac. You come crawling back to the Mac. Kevin Katsuoka a while back, 2037, 5 minutes ago, said, one thought I had, if a restaurant allows people to sit next to you without a mask, how can I trust them to follow any other health and hygiene rules? Yeah. Right? If you see them, you know what? I had an encounter with someone who kept trying to stand closer to me. And then I was like, well, if they're going to stand this close to me, then they're doing this with other people, and they're probably not washing their hands. And I'm like, their whole life is called into question. NetReamer doesn't want to do the Zoom meeting. I just want to turn on the TV and have the hairless monkey entertain me. But you could be at the Zoom meeting and it could be the same, right? And then a whole bunch of hairless monkeys will be entertaining you. You don't even have to speak. Hackintosh stability is an issue. Fine for hobbyists, not for production. I would be worried about it. I just love the feeling. Paul Olson says he loves the feeling of pulling out my MacBook Pro at a Starbucks. What do you mean? Elaborate on that, Paul. Like, you feel like, I don't know if you're being funny or sarcastic there, or because it's like a cliche, Starbucks, a Mac. It's amazing that this computer company that they had such a small, look what they've become in music and cell phones, mobile devices, tablets. But before that, they used to be just this personal computer maker that had the smallest piece of the pie, with all these major, with Dell and IBM and all those, and then the software, right? Microsoft on the software end, like, and Apple was this little company that never was expected to have more than a sliver of the pie, and now they are the pie. Pretty much, right? And they revolutionized several, with the iPod. They've revolutionized the music business. They revolutionized the Walkman, portable music business, but also the purchasing of digital music. Two different things there, and tablets, and mobile phones, and now they're I have an Apple TV too. You know what? My Apple TV, something's wrong with it. I think I have to do a factory reset. And I've been lazy about it because I also have a Roku, and I actually prefer the Roku. I've always preferred the navigation on the Roku. The reason I bought them both was because when I bought them, I could send stuff from my iPhone to the Apple TV and watch it on the big screen. And because of tensions between Amazon and Apple, you couldn't get Amazon Prime originally on the Apple TV. They didn't have that app. And so I ended up getting a Roku and liking the interface a lot more, but I still needed the Apple TV for a few things. Well, now I can send anything to the Roku, and I maybe I could before, but and Amazon is on the Apple TV, but my Apple TV basically stopped working. I think I just need to do a factory reset. Thanks for your help. I worked this one out in my own head. Oh my God, Albert, your first Mac wasn't until 2010? That's insane. 1984. And except for that brief period, it was all Mac all the time. I wish I had my old original Mac. I remember, but don't have one of the first, probably the first laptop I had. Compared to it wasn't sleek. It seemed sleek at the time, but it was thicker and boxier, and it wasn't this beautiful, they've gone with the beautiful, shiny, silver finish. It was a darker gray plastic, this old Apple look. But I do remember that my laptop had a trackball in the middle, and you'd operate it with your thumb, and I used to like that a lot. I really did like that technology. 2010. Wow. Albert converted Susan. That's great. That's what Jews do. You're lucky he's not going to try to convince you, convert you to Judaism. Unless you already are a Jew, Susan. Harris could be a Jewish name, but I'm guessing it isn't. But unlike some of our friends, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I'm not very religious. I'm just sort of Jewish, as we like to say. And but some of my oldest friends, a couple of my closest ones, people that Albert knows too, and Mark, you would know this. I don't know what your story is, Mark, but in particular, Billy and David, friends of mine, they met non-Jewish girls and they had them convert to Judaism before they married them. So we're kind of like the Borg. You will be assimilated. And is it heretical to tell a Star Trek joke on May the 4th? Paul does love his Mac. You're joking on yourself and your vanity, pulling out your MacBook Pro in a Starbucks with your latte. And do you drive a Beamer? They are the apple pie. How did I miss that, John? That's why it's good to have a writing team. I totally missed that. Did I actually say the words apple is the pie or they are the pie? They are the apple pie. It's virtual Malow. Are you real? No, Michael. This is not real. Nothing is real. John Lennon said it. Strawberry fields forever. I just intend to get a lot of work done and rarely do, Paul. Yeah, what do? You stare at people? Kevin, and the US Festival. Oh, yeah. The US Festival, that was a Steve Wozniak thing, wasn't it? Or was it Apple or was it more Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple and the tech genius? Denise, it doesn't matter what we say about a Zoom meeting. Ryan will be working on stability just of this forever and never get to the real show he talks about anyway. Oh, NetReamer. I've done it before. We're looking pretty good. Can we do? It's your own fault. Does the video and audio look in sync? And, oh, shoot. I want to see for myself. But this might be too far behind. And let me check the other thing. Let me see it. Wait. Yeah, that looks fine. And then this business, let's turn that down. Oh, I never did bring the music back. I see. And here's that second microphone. Does it sound like two claps? Does that sound like two claps? It better not sound like two claps. Tell me that doesn't sound like two claps. I'll be very mad if that sounds like four claps. Okay. Nice. Does that sound like two claps? It better not sound like two claps. Tell me that doesn't sound like two claps. I'll be very mad if that sounds like four claps. You know, it's hard to do comedy when you're sitting in a room by yourself. It's a good thing that I'm my best audience. You have a friend who still has a Lisa? Albert, it took me a minute to parse that because I used to have a Lisa, but she was a human. I didn't have her. I mean, sometimes I did, but you know what I mean? You know the thing about Roku, it's like the Apple TV, the Roku, I just have liked the navigation better. The individual apps like Netflix, I just preferred the navigation much. I didn't like that, yeah, that's it. I just think that the architecture, like, and the navigation and different words for saying the exact same thing a third or fourth time is what bothered me. Your family was a Mac family since 1984. Yeah. Now, hey, Albert, so Chuck had an Apple IIe like in high school, a 2C or a 2, whatever. But then later he was totally a PC guy. And then he even worked for Dell. And you know he was a PC guy then. I don't know that he ever came back to the Mac. But he started there in the earliest days. And, you know, if you haven't heard this, Albert, I don't remember your whole life story, but we were in junior high together, and in junior high school, what you people now call middle school, but back in our day, we called it junior high school. You had your high school and your junior high school. And I took one programming class, and I learned to program in BASIC. And, oh my God, in one of, did I show you this once? Oh. No, I probably didn't. Because I don't have you the ability to show it to you now. I took one programming class, and did you notice my hair? Did you notice? My hair is just a little, I could use a haircut. Even a shower would be a step in the right direction. But here we are. I took one programming class. I learned BASIC. In one of my old Isaac Asimov books, I think I know which one, is a folded piece of paper that's part of a printout of some lines of BASIC. And I can't remember which one. I found two of these, and they date back from junior high, and they're stuck inside a couple different books. One is a program that has something to do with Pythagorean theorem, like you put in two sides and it'll tell you what the third side is. And the other one is a tic-tac-toe game. And these were programs that I wrote in BASIC. But we didn't use little SD cards. We didn't use CDs or DVDs back then. We didn't have 3.5-inch floppy disks that you do. Does people even remember those? That we didn't have rewritable CDs. We didn't have 3.5-inch not so floppy disks that were the Mac disks. We didn't have 5.25-inch floppy disks. What our medium was, and God, I feel like somewhere, I wish I still had this, and it might be in a box somewhere. A little piece, it was a strip of pink paper, and a long strip about that wide, and just long, and with holes punched in it. And when you were done, you would roll it up and put a rubber band around it and take it home with you, and you'd bring it back to school and feed it in, and it would. So that was the format: physical holes punched in a long piece of paper that you'd roll up and put a rubber band around. If David, Netreamer, and Albert, if you can put some jargon and terms on those things I just said, that would be cool. Reg says my second computer was an Apple IIe. What was your first computer if you had that? If that was already your second? A friend of yours was the voice of Lisa, Denise? Netreamer has converted a few people to Mac. I wanted them to take their issues and questions to someone else. Yeah. Oi, Michael Gar, what are you doing? Friends with Pentecostal, Catholic, Seventh-day. I preferred Unitarian Universal once I was an adult. Yeah. Albert's first was a Commodore PET, 1975. Then an Apple II. Then a bunch of PCs, starting with the original Compact 3000 with one floppy drive. Michael Gar, what? What's a Jewish dilemma? You said Apple used to just have a small slice of the pie. Now they are the pie. Apple pie. Oh, friends with... I said friends with benefits, didn't I? I didn't know what you were talking about. So when I started reading it, FWB, I don't know. I guess I spend less time around Baptist churches than I do around dating apps. Shut up, Netreamer. The audio was not ahead. All I care about is that clapping. And it looked in sync with the video. It looks in sync enough. Eric Knisley, SGI Reality Engine running Alias Wavefront, your first 3D workstation. But you didn't start on that, Eric. Echo. What does that mean? Oh, yeah. If you didn't know, when you heard... Oh, shit, I did turn it off, didn't I? Yeah. When I sounded like a computer or the Echo, that was just to test this. That was just turning two microphones on to see if stuff was still in sync. Let me listen again. Because I can't trust you people. I never know when you're being sincere. When I sounded like a computer or the Echo, that was just to test this. Yeah. And everything else looks normal enough, right? That was just turning two microphones on. Yeah, John, I don't know if you were... Oh, yeah, you were here at the beginning, weren't you? You were here before me, weren't you? That's right. You were doing this before I was. Kevin, I think the U.S. Festival was Wozniak funded from his Apple money. Yeah, I think that's right, Kevin. Sounds like... You know what, Denise? I was just thinking that. I just listened... It's Since You're Gone, and I thought of that song, and I ended up listening to that Cars album almost in its entirety. It's Shake It Up. I don't like it quite as much as the first three Cars albums. It's the fourth one, but those are the four really good ones. But I think I like but there's some fantastic songs on there. And also, I like... Rico Kasich was a peculiar lyricist. Oh man, I almost corrected myself for saying was, but was is the appropriate tense. He's not moving in stereo anymore. He wrote some interesting lines, and there's a line that I think it's a pretty nice line. He says, something about, like, since you're gone, I never feel sedate. Since you're gone, the moonlight ain't so great. Or ain't that great. One of those. And it's like, that's a pretty good little line. Little romantic line. You're killing yourself. Wait, what did that mean, John? Reverb. I'm pretty sure I've never tested this, and I don't have, I'm not hearing the audio myself, but, oops, not that. Filters. There are all sorts of filters. Compressor expander. Huh. But you know what there isn't? I'm a little surprised that they don't have reverb or something. All the filters I see are compressors and limiters and noise gate and gain and oh, there is gain. Oh, that's good to know. Help me out with something. I'm gonna have to listen for it later, but let me see if does this have an effect on the sound? Am I making it louder? I am making it louder. Okay, sorry about that. The way I'm bringing the audio in now, it's actually coming in a little low, and I'm having to have the audio level cranked up super loud. So let me ask you, do you hear any extra hiss right now than you did a minute ago? Here's default. Here's where it was. I want to bring it up to like maybe here or even here. Did I just introduce any hiss? I'm going to bring it down here. All right. Did I do anything different to the audio there? Is it still okay? Let me know. Because I applied a filter and I boosted the gain because this audio was coming in at too low level. You don't care. The Apple TV trackpad was a dumb choice. Chuck didn't come back to Mac. No, he didn't. 5 1/4 floppy, box of cards. 7th grade math lab, paper tape via an ASR 33 teletype. Thank you. And, you know, those old modems where we had the old style, this kind of phone. We all remember this kind of phone, don't we? And then it fitted in the cradle. John studied Pascal. We carried around a box of cards. Interesting. Reg in 79 also did the long strip. This was just a couple years before that, mid 70s, mid to late 70s. Oh, well, yeah, somewhere in there. Punch cards in 1980. JD Mac, don't forget to mention that computer you used in junior high had no monitor, just a long roll of paper. I'm pretty sure you're right. Right. We entered this stuff and then all you had, your monitor was that piece of paper. That was the output. Mike Gar. Okay, Mike Gar's punchline came so far. Oh, yeah, that's the Jewish dilemma. Ham at half price. Michael Gar, ladies and gentlemen. A bad Jew. Mike. Just like Chuck never came back to the Mac. Mike, you gonna come back? Come on back. The Jews miss you. Come on back. Come on back. I'm not their spokesperson. Rest in peace, Rick Ocasek. I think he's been syncing with another group. That clap sync sounded more like the beginning of Come On Eileen. No, I don't remember how Come On Eileen starts. I just hear the fiddles and stuff. Albert, yeah. But, you know, a little reverb would be fun. Occasionally. Couple frames off. The gain makes it louder. Like, no hiss, fine, good. I was clipping, yeah. I realized what I wanted was when I brought in, I wish I could show you this without, well, I mean, I kind of can, but it doesn't matter. The mic is now coming in through a device I bought on Amazon for less than $8. That's just a mini plug-in. It has a microphone and a headphone jack, and it plugs into the USB port, and it's this big. And there doesn't seem to be a degradation in the sound quality, but the volume comes through low compared to the way I brought it in before through the camera. So I've had to have the audio meter that I'm facing, I had to have the volume up all the way. But by increasing the gain over there, that gives me a little play here. You know what I mean. The gain helped. Good. Oh, it did need to be louder? Well, I can always be close. Oh, sorry if that clipped. I can always be closer to the mic. See you, John. Back in a bit. 110 bits per second, 11 characters per second on the ASR33. Michael had a Tandy Model 100 with a 228K. A rabbi told you that joke, Mike? The ASR33 was a teletype. Keyboard, printer, 110 baud modem. Wow, 110. How do you even remember that? I remember 56K and I remember 28. Was it 28.8? Wait, 14.4. Right. I remember 14.4, but even that is like kilobits per second. Is baud bits or 110 baud modem, paper tape punch and reader. Rice University had the same thing back then. Sounds good, actually. Yeah, like, let me, oh, it's just a plain little thing like this. I'm surprised. I wish I could bring the video in. Hey, Mike, I placed orders for some things today. I placed orders for a bunch of back-ordered stuff. An 810 Mini Pro. I don't think you were on. I already said this earlier. I called Adorama. They have they don't know when they're getting stuff in, and they have a long waiting list. I found a place in North Carolina that had a really short waiting list, and they said they're getting some in next week. But of the Pro, not the Mini. So I went ahead and ordered one, and I ordered from Adorama and so for me anyway, this will be interesting to see if any of these devices come in today from Adorama and from B&H Photo. I ordered capture devices that capture HDMI and come into USB. And I ordered I ordered a couple different ones, and there's a little redundancy. Some I want to compare them, see how they are, but mainly none of them are in stock. So it's really a question of which ones come first, and I can cancel the other orders or test them out and send them back. But right now, I should have thought of that a long time ago, because weeks ago I should have gone ahead and put those orders in, and maybe I'd have them by now. But if I want to take things to the next level, I'm going to need that. So, and the next level I'm talking about is, here's what I want. I want to be able to do some live interviews here with you. Live interview via Skype. The way I do them, I don't really want to just do a Zoom thing with the two of us side by side. I want it to look a little prettier than that. Here's what I want it to look like. I'll show you. I don't know if I have the mic turned on here. If I don't, I'll turn it on once I get there. Well, just hold on. I can change the mode I'm in, and I can check this. Okay, it's there, and it's there, and it's there. Okay, all along it was fine. So I thought that I checked and there was audio here. I went through the 3 things and I thought it was there, but it's not. So now it is. So I could be having a conversation and we're all in sync. And even if I turn on the Yeti, there's no reason to think that even though we sound like a robot, there's no reason to think this isn't still in sync. Lose the Yeti. Having a conversation and we're all in sync. And even if I turn on the Yeti, there's no reason to think that even though we sound like a robot, there's no reason to think this isn't still in sync. Hey, Kevin. Good night, Kevin. Everyone say good night to Kevin. We're all saying good night. Look at how many of us are saying good night to Kevin. And that's just me. Hey, Darla. Are you still out there? I tried. Oh, let's bring back our little music bed. I don't know what the right level for the music background is. I don't even see it barely registering. I made one of the experiments I did while I've been gone from streaming is I tried to run Zoom or Skype on my laptop and OBS at the same time and capture the one as a source, and it was too much, and it was lagging. I think that it was too much for my laptop, and there's other problems with it anyway. But the better way to do it is do the Zoom or Skype on a separate machine and bring that in as a source into here. Oh, NetReamer hates the music. Audio is lost on the blue frame. Yeah, but I fixed it, right? The blue frame view, you just meant on the wide one. So it was off in all of these. This next one too. You know what's so weird? Remember, like, I did a test. I checked through them and I went to make sure that the audio existed in each of these. And somehow I thought it did. I think I was looking at the wrong audio source. So anyway. Oh, you know, I actually did. These were really very different. I'm confused. No, but these 2 cameras look a little different, but that's okay. You know, nope, I'm out of ports. You ever have that problem? I'm out of ports. I'm all out of ports. What can a guy do?
Sticks.
Light it up, let's get this show on the road.
Live and
Now, I didn't expect that to play in here. That might have sounded weird or echoey, did it? Because I didn't know that that audio source was coming through the speakers. Oh, and I didn't have a, damn it. I didn't have a microphone in that. I didn't have the microphone again there, didn't I? I'm just gonna fix that real quick. Okay. Let's see. Just Now let's see.
Sticks.
Light it up,
Let's get this show on the road.
Live in 2020. Tommy, JY, Lawrence, Ricky, Todd, Chuck. Sticks. August 2nd. Live at
Maybe that sticks. Maybe it's just some guys I went to junior high school with. Ports? What? He's all out of ports. Isn't that a song by Air Supply? I'm all out of ports. What am I without you? I can only stream with one video source. That isn't entirely true because I have a built-in webcam. But the mic stays the same. The mic stays the same, the Brian Malow story. What the hell kind of show is this turning into? When you don't talk, we don't know what the mic is. And that is the important thing. Out of port, stop whining. Darla, did you want to ask your question? Did you have a question for me? Because we've been streaming. You know, we haven't dropped a frame. For what it's worth, an hour and 15 minutes in, we've dropped 0 frames. You know, one of the things that I initiated was a setting that is putting a longer delay on the stream. The point of it was if internet congestion or something was causing the dropped frames, if you allow this buffer and this delay. So I did scale it back from 20 seconds to 15 seconds, but it's on a 15-second delay right now. So I wonder if I'm doing all this at 720, maybe I can drop that entirely. You know, I'm not entirely satisfied with the idea of doing 720. You can't even hear that music, can you? It looks like it's on, but I didn't hear it. If I was streaming only to YouTube, YouTube likes higher resolution video, and I'd like it to be 1080p instead of this. So, you know, that's the one thing. It's like things are running smoothly, and it's maybe because I'm sending out this signal, but hopefully it looks good, but I want it to look even better. It might take money, and hey, if any of you wants to sponsor the show, my deal with String Cheese is going to run out soon, and I'm looking for a sponsor that would like to help provide a really beefy desktop machine. Then we would be set, don't you think? And some other gear. Lots of gear. Other gear. It's all about the gear. Brian, did you see my request up above? Scroll back up a tiny bit. I see where you said extend to port. Thank you, Reg. I don't know, Denise. I see comments, but I don't see a request. I see you saying goodnight to Kevin. Oh, a Zoom meeting for your birthday on May 12th. That would be the best gift ever. May 12th is not only George Carlin's birthday, but it's the day that my friend Joey passed away. That guy. You know about Joey. That's the day he passed away, and it's also George Carlin's birthday. We'll do something. A Zoom call. See, we should definitely do a show that day, though. We'll figure something out. And Darla says the 14th. And Susan says the 19th. Okay, Darla had a question. How do you deal with hecklers? Do you ever enjoy audience callouts? What are you calling? So that audience call outs. What do you mean by that? Do you mean me calling them out or them calling? What do you? Because that's not really a term that I use. So when you say audience call outs, what do you mean by that? And in 20 seconds, when you respond, I'll give you your whole answer. Happy birthday, everybody. Pepperidge Farm is looking for sponsors. Hey, Ellen. Albert, Ellen. Say hello to my sister, everybody. Say hello. We know she's inside where she's safe. I already told them that there's a 40% greater risk of infection in your state now, thanks to your governor. Okay, so Darla, here's the thing about hecklers. When you get, it seems like for the most part, here's a generalization, and this is a bit of a generalization, but I got distracted thinking of a joke that didn't make sense in this context. But it seems like for a lot of us, you have to deal with hecklers a lot more earlier in your career, because the better you get as a comic, the less it happens. Because a lot of times, a lot of heckling is like they smell, like if you're bombing and you're doing horrible, and then it's like they smell blood in the water and fear, and then they take advantage and they jump on you. It's like a shark attack or something. But as you get better and stronger, if you're not commanding the stage, you really open the door to hecklers. But that's not the whole story on the hecklers. But I'd have to say that that's true to a great extent. Plus, my career has taken a weird left turn where I don't perform in comedy clubs. I used to perform mostly in comedy clubs and then some colleges and like private gigs. Now I mostly do private gigs. And I mostly do a kind of event where the likelihood of me being heckled is less. It's a higher class of people. It's not a drunk nightclub audience. They're not rowdy. I'm at a conference, or I'm like these science people, and they're just more respectful. And so, but like I said, that's a generalization, and there are still, in comedy clubs or other places, there's still some people that are just going to be obnoxious, and they're going to blurt stuff out. And you know what? They're not always being obnoxious. Sometimes people mean well, even if they're messing you up. Because sometimes when somebody blurts something out, it ruins your timing. Like, timing can be very important in your comedy. You could be telling a story. There's a time that I don't mind interacting with people, but there are some times that's not the right time. I have a rhythm going here, and I have a destination. I'm headed towards a end of a story or a punchline or something, and if you interrupt it, it ruins the whole thing. Like it can't accept an interruption in the middle and still work. So Bo, you're still sending me Hackintosh stuff? I'll click that one, but it's going to launch a YouTube video, so I have to stop it. Hang on. Oh, I see. It's just a list of YouTube videos. But I mean, how affordable are they? And who am I supposed to believe? What kind of machine are you on these days, Bo? I forget your history, but you were a Mac guy, weren't you? You've probably done both. You'll probably buy platform, at least. Maybe even try. So, Darla, I know this isn't a very satisfying answer, although I could probably tell you a couple stories if I think of some. Yeah. Most of my heckler stories are probably a little off color. Yeah. Hang on. Let's see what this is. Oh yeah, Albert's saying hi to Ellen. Oh wait, Ellen, where are you? Yeah, you're on YouTube. Of course you are. Because you've never been a Facebook kind of person anyway. We've been on for an hour 25. Bo, you're on a 2015 MacBook Air. First was Commodore, then a 512K Mac. Oh, well, around 1984 or something. I'm trying to remember. Maybe it was a 128K and you could, but I got it upgraded to 512. And that was the memory. So like, I currently have 16 gigs of RAM in my laptop, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and that was 512 kilobytes. Is that even possible? It wasn't even megabytes, it was kilobytes of RAM. It just seems unbelievable. And now we're at 16 gigabytes. And for some video and streaming kind of stuff, it's like, maybe the next machine would be really nice to have 32 gigabytes of RAM for. Isn't that absurd? Who's got the most RAM here? JD, what are you running anyway? And what's your plan? What are you going to do with that A10 Mini if you're even out there anymore? Let's pull this up. See if anyone's back there. Back on the Facebook front. Oh yeah, by the way, tomorrow. That's not right. I'm assuming it's... Oh wow, that's way behind. When I pulled up the Facebook video, it was like it wasn't even half an hour into the program. Okay. This should catch it where it is. Yep. All right. Nice to have 32 gigabytes of RAM for. Isn't that absurd? Huh. You don't hear the music playing at all, do you? I don't. I see it registering, but I'm not hearing it. Bo, 128K upgraded to a Mac Plus with Super Mac upgrades. Oh yeah, I was doing that. That was in Austin in 1984 when I got my first. It was from the, what was it called? Something like the Texas Computer Center or something. I still think somewhere I have the receipt to that first Macintosh that I bought. And I do have some old magazines. Some are like early computing magazines and some are just like science magazines with really interesting ads for those early home-built computer kits. It's really interesting to look at magazines a few decades old, and everything about the style of layouts has changed, and the ad design has changed so much. Smart thing was selling the Macs to students at discounts. Yeah, my first Commodore, Albert said, was the maxed out model, 8 kilobytes up from the 4K base model, $200 extra. Darla still ended up with a Mac compatible. Albert really splurged. The music is faint but playing. Yeah, even I'm not hearing it when I went back here. Now do I hear it? Magazine's a few decades old and everything about the style of layouts has changed. Yeah, it's there a little bit. Maybe I made it too loud now. Paul, you're on Facebook and you hear the music? Okay. Maybe I just couldn't hear it over my loudness, live and recorded. I was overwhelming it. Bo, you still have your first Mac? I guess I don't know what happened to it. I don't remember when I let it go. Darla with the codes in the back. All right, it's time to hear from our sponsor, String Cheese. Uh-oh. What have we got should we be celebrating May the 4th in some way? I will say that, can somebody check this? A friend of mine said that May 25th is Star Wars Day. Is that by any chance the day that Star Wars... What day did Star Wars premiere? Well, you're not... That's not showing the date. I need Wikipedia for that. Wikipedia. Wow, it's just so much easier because it's hard to type when you have a phone in one hand and your string cheese in another. Star Wars. A New Hope. I don't like calling it that because that is not what it was called. May 25th, sure enough, 1977. So my friend, I figured that I back-engineered his comment when he was saying May the 4th. He was balking at that, and May 25th is Star Wars Day because Star Wars actually premiered on May 25th, 1977. And I remember, Albert, did we, I feel like I must, 77. I don't know. I do know that I saw it at Meyerland. What was that little center called that had the theater that, not Meyer Park, but the one, I'm drawing a blank on my childhood. Because if you remember back to one of the last streams we did together, it's like, you know why I can't remember? Because there's a gigantic house where my childhood used to be. John O'Connell says, C-3PO reminds me of the Scarecrow from Oz, except for the brains part. I know. He very much is I wonder if they modeled... And R2-D2 is like Toto? Not quite. Albert said, I have my first iPad, original model. Yeah. Can you believe how many generations of iPad there's already been in such a short time? LA called declared a Star Wars Day in 2007. 30, how can that be 30 years? A separate initiative for observing Geek Pride Day on May 25th is based on the Star Wars connection, along with ties to the Hitchhiker's Guide, Towel Day, and Discworld. I never read any Terry Pratchett. That's one of the holes in my geekhood. Discworld, Terry Pratchett. I really should reread some Douglas Adams. It's been a long time. R2-D2 is the Tin Man, sure. Well, I mean, C-3PO is a little like the Tin Man, too. Maybe C-3PO is the Tin Man. C-3PO is every man. C-3PO is the Tin Man. And has a personality like the Scarecrow. A little bit like the Cowardly Lion, even. R2-D2 is bold and is going off, and it's like, I'm not going there. One iPod to rule them all. Hold on a sec. I don't have photos of these. But I have... some of you may have seen, I think on Facebook, at least on Instagram, I not too long ago, some months ago, shared some pictures of these. This is my, a little Zen music player before I had an iPod. It's called a Zen Nano Plus from Creative. This has 1 gigabyte. So, I mean, this is pretty advanced. Let's put the cheese down for a sec. I could have brought a napkin. Look at this. When you take it out of its plastic sheath, unfortunately, the battery case, the plastic sheath is helping keep the battery compartment thing closed. But this little thing is very surprising. It has this little wheel, and you can press it to, like, the navigation uses these buttons and this wheel. Mostly that you navigate with this wheel, like you press it to click through the, and move it to either side and go through these menus. And it's like, I couldn't believe that I fired it up and put a battery in it. I took out the battery that was in it and cleaned away some of the, that, what do you get when a battery gets old and you get that, that acidy, help me with the chemistry, Albert. Cleaned it out a little, put a battery in it, and it totally still works. It doesn't have a speaker, so you do need to turn headphones. Hold on a sec. Let me remember. How to even turn it on. So, it's playing an Alejandro Escovedo song. Slip. Which, I don't know, if I play music like this, I better be careful because I don't want my stream to get, I don't want them to remove the sound from the entire stream because I have some copyrighted music playing. But there's some old Queen songs and other stuff on here. And I don't remember, but I went ahead and looked it up. The Zen Nano Plus. You guys could do this quicker than me. That's from... Oh, shoot. Now I'm getting, like, places to buy it, but there it is on Wikipedia. Creative Zen. Zen Nano. Wow, they had a lot of models. Nano and Nano Plus. 2006. So this is what a 2006 era 1 gigabyte audio player might look like from Creative. That's what I had. I think this was my ex's. This was never mine. It's a SanDisk and it's 2 gigabytes. And I haven't tried to fire this one up. This one. Oh. I don't even see a battery compartment for it. And then the other thing, since we're looking at that, is sitting on the shelf right next to it was, you can't see it very well because the focus is back here, but it's my little, this was a watch I had when I was a little kid, and it has the moon, and it has a little lunar lander. The little white thing at the bottom, there's a disc that turns, and that lunar lander is sort of the second hand, and it goes around, kind of around the moon. It's just my old watch. Okay, what have you guys been up to? Toto is Chewbacca. Chewbacca's the lion. Chalky battery corrosion. Potassium hydroxide. Potassium hydroxide, really? NetReamer has a small museum's worth of old MP3 players. Yes, Meyerland Plaza General Cinema. Mark Kaplan, yes. I'm pretty sure that's where I saw Star Wars, probably on May 25th, 1977. In all likelihood, on that very day, we were standing in line in front of Meyerland Plaza movie theater. Still no dropped frames. Still a 15-second delay. You know, the fan on my computer has been running pretty much the whole time, I guess. Remember the last time that when I said the fan was running and I wondered how hot it was and I lifted it up and we lost the show. I shouldn't be messing with the things I'm touching right now. Things that go into ports. The lion talks too much to be Chewbacca. Well, I can't do a Chewbacca sound. And I shouldn't have even attempted. Yes, that was an attempt. I don't know what to do. I don't do mimicry. I feel like there was another story I wanted to tell you. Darla, were you satisfied with your heckling? How do you deal with hecklers? Oh, by the way, here's a different way to answer your question, Darla. At a certain point in my career, I came up with some lines that I would use. So sometimes you'll hear comedians resort to using something they didn't make up themselves to deal with a heckler. So like we think of that as hacky. We don't like it. The school of thought in comedy that I come from, the influences I had on me when I was starting out as a comic, don't like that. Like we're like, no, that's not how we do it. That's hacky. We don't. But it's that kind of thing you've heard comics go, oh, I don't come to where you work and knock the dicks out of your mouth like that. Or I don't come to where you work and tell you how to flip the burgers if you need a PC version. But those are like, even if you do a clever twist on it, it's just this thing that comedians have said since time began. But at a certain point in my career, I did come up with a few lines that I made up myself, and I would use them. And they were corny. They were all kind of corny. Like, I feel like there were 3 that I used a lot. And the last time I tried to remember, I could only think of 2 of them. Let's see. One of them was like, oh yeah, like Albert, or no. Damn, I can only remember 2, but there was one it was like, yeah, I saw you when you came in, and if I were in your shoes, I'd be bowling. It was just kind of stupid, really. It was just silly. And then one was like someone who's persistent. The last one would I can't remember what the other one was, but the final one would be, okay, yeah, great. What's your name? Albert? Ladies and gentlemen, you'd have he may not know this. Albert was in the February issue of Playgirl magazine. February is the shortest month. Ha ha ha. So it was made up, but it I don't know. It was like, a lot of things, it's like when you're in the moment and you say something like that, something happens and it seems very live. Whatever you say, audiences tend to like that. They're inclined to be on your side against the heckler, and they like it when you say something. But I feel like there was one other classic in my classic Brian Malow heckler line. But what happened is I got tired of that, and I got to a different point where I realized that I like some spontaneity in my act. I like it to be on my own terms. But if I have to deal with a heckler, I don't need any pre-written lines. I should be able to handle a heckler and come out ahead, or why am I the guy on stage? If I can't come out ahead in this exchange, then why am I the one getting paid to be on stage and they're coming to pay to eat drinks and bar food? So I would just do whatever in that spontaneous moment, whatever seemed appropriate to that spontaneous moment. I I would have to be clever in the moment, and I like that better. Although, ultimately, I did have another line. Paul wrote, I stopped the show, crawl on top of their table, and ask them some personal questions. That works. Oh, Bo. Ellen says, shut the fuck up was the line. That was not one of my lines. But let me tell you, I came up sometimes a comedian riffs something on stage. And then you go, that was funny, and I'm going to use it later. And so the first time you used it, it was spontaneous, but then it becomes a part of your act. And this happened I had someone who had been heckling. I think they had heckled previous comics during the show, and then it was persistent. And I said, I'm looking at the script, and you don't have any lines here. Your next part is pays check and exits quietly. And that worked really well. And what's great about it is I'm essentially telling them to shut the fuck up, but in a roundabout way. Like if you say shut the fuck up, there's always a risk in the way you handle hecklers. Sometimes somebody hits a heckler too hard. You have different kinds of hecklers. Some are very obnoxious. Some are a little more innocent. They are interrupting the show and they're maybe being unpleasant, but sometimes they mean well. Sometimes they don't mean well. Sometimes they mean well. So there's different kinds of hecklers. And if someone is not an obnoxious asshole, but they're talking a little, and you come down too hard, the crowd could turn on you because it's like, whoa, that was, that wasn't the appropriate level of response. That wasn't punishment equal to the crime, So sometimes if somebody's really obnoxious, then you can hit them hard and the crowd will appreciate it. But so like sometimes just to be mean, just to go you want to just say shut the fuck up, but to instead go, you don't have any lines here. Your next pays check exits quietly. It's a very roundabout way, but it is essentially saying, will you shut the fuck up? Thanks, Paul. Yeah, it's like, but I can give you at least one funny spontaneous story. Darla, are you even still there? Yeah, you are. Haha. I don't know what part you laughed at. I can tell you one interesting story. It has an old computer tech connection of the time I worked with Drew Carey and a heckling situation. But before I tell you that one, and that's an old one, I worked with Drew Carey before he was famous. He was headlining a club in Minneapolis, but that's it. He was just a club headliner. He hadn't hit it with the TV stuff yet. But before that story, one time, it's too bad our friend Natalie isn't out there because this has a peripheral connection to Mitch Hedberg. One time I was working a comedy club. It's called the the Comedy Underground in Seattle, Washington. And I was headlining and I was able to bring whoever I wanted to bring. And I brought Mitch's widow, Lynn, my friend. She's a comedian. Mitch was married to a comedian. She would open most of his shows, I think. And I brought her to open for me. And my girlfriend, Tara, was with me at the time. Future wife, future, even more future ex-wife, but at the time, girlfriend, was with me. And we were friendly with Lynn, and so we had a great time working like 4 or 5 nights together. Most clubs on a Friday or Saturday have 2 shows, and very rarely, on a Saturday night at a comedy club, there might be 3 shows, like 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and midnight. And that was... Seattle Underground had like a midnight show. Saturday night, they were so rowdy. They're like rowdy and drunk by the time they get there. And that club also puts several comedians on before the headliner. So even before Lynn and me, 2 or 3 other comedians went on. And it was just a wild and crazy and rowdy crowd. And when I was on stage, and Tara was in the back of the room, and so was Lynn, and there was a girl who was trying to make the whole show about her. She had already been problematic during the previous acts. And she, at one point in the middle of my show, and the great thing about, I recorded this show somewhere, I have a video of this, but unfortunately the best part of it, the camera was just set in the back of the room, and my encounter with her, I walked over to the side of the stage. So I walked out of the shot, but this was recorded, the audio anyway, goes like this. It's just unfortunate that I was off screen when it happened, but the audio is the same. She I look over and she was standing next to the stage and she's trying to call attention to herself as she had throughout the show. And she goes, all of a sudden she just blurts out, "Aren't you going to buy me a drink?" And I said, "Well, I do want to stick something in your mouth." I didn't laugh when I said it. I said, "Well, I do." Well, I probably did laugh. I go, "Well, I do want to stick something in your mouth." And the crowd goes, "Wah!" And then I said, "But I don't want to have to pay for it." and they lost that even bigger response. And personally, what I like about that, and something about the creative process and the comedy process, because this happens a lot, is when I said the first line, I didn't already know the second line. You know, I just said the first line. I do want to stick something in your mouth. And I didn't have the second line planned. But then it killed, and then there was a moment there, and then I thought of the next line, but I don't want to have to pay for it. And so I like that. Like sometimes you might, that's such a perfect setup to the other line that you would almost think that I already knew I was going to say it. But no, I said one, then I said the other, and it killed. And then later, I found out that Tara was in the back of the room, and somebody else, like one of the other comedians, like when I said this sexually charged thing to this cute drunk girl at the side of the stage, they were like they wondered how Tara would react to it or something. But if Tara laughed harder than anyone else. And so it's like they thought like, ooh, he said that to her. Is that okay? I don't know. That didn't make much sense. But so there you go. And then I'll tell you my Drew Carey story in a second. But I do know somewhere I'm going to have to dig out some old... I don't have that many old computers in the house, but I have some old video cameras. I have an old... Do you guys know this one? Hang on. Do you know this? You know what? It's actually not easily accessible to me right now, but I can see up there an old 8mm video camera, high 8 or 8mm video, not film. I have a mini DV camera up there, a Canon. I have this video camera I'm using. I have like an older model Canon camcorder, and then a really cheap other brand camcorder that's like a couple $100 one that was given to me for a project I was working on. And then I also have, the one I was going to pull was the little flip camera. Do you remember those from like the 2008 or 10 or so, like around then, 10, 12 years ago, the little flip cameras that was interesting. How many of y'all are still out there, by the way? If I'm going to tell another story, I need to know if you're even out there. Oh, there's fewer of you. You're not quite as chatty. Anyone over on Facebook? Not as far as I can tell. PJ Manny is watching, or was. PJ, if you're out there. Hello. All the commenting is mostly happening over at YouTube. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/sciencecomedian. Science Comedian on YouTube. And I invite you to come over there if you're even still out there. PJ. So yeah, Albert says a masterclass in dealing with hecklers. Bo, do you remember asking on stage something like, "Where was I?" And I reminded you, "People of the earth." That sounds familiar, Bo, but did I go with that? People of the earth. You know what? I remember one night. It almost had to be at the Velveeta Room in Austin on 6th Street. I had just written some really wordy material. Let me see if I can riff it. Let's see if I can remember this. There was a whole lot to it, but it all stemmed from this little thing I wrote. Someday we'll be somebody's dinosaurs, depicted in their children's books as horrific monsters locked in mortal combat. Mystery forever shrouding our sudden and final demise will lay buried beneath the accruing layers of the Earth's crust, and the decaying corpus of our species will fuel the machines of their civilization. Thank you, good night. I had written some other stuff kind of like that, on that theme, and it was wordy, and I did one show at the Velveeta Room which was almost, it had this call and response thing. I was talking about the ocean. It was our primeval womb. And then at some point I said, "What is the ocean?" And they go, "Our primeval." And then I said, what is the ocean? And they said, "Our primeval womb." Wait, hold on. Wait a minute. What is the ocean? It is our primeval womb. What did that sound like? Ooh, I shouldn't have this loose anymore. Let me plug that in. Hold on a sec. I did one show at the Oh, it's too far behind. So it became like, and I always knew, and Bo, we probably talked about this if you were there. Does this sound familiar to you? That it was like that one was like, I don't think I ever really repeated it in the same way. I had this material, it was about how we had crawled out of the ocean, our primeval womb, and onto land, and it had all this evolutionary stuff, and it was very wordy, and I think around the same time, I had this bit about the heat in Arizona, because one summer, 4th of July weekend, I was in Tucson. It was 110 degrees. And I was like, that's fucking hot. And a couple hours away at a place called Lake Havasu, it was 125 degrees. And that just sounds like science fiction. 125 degrees, you're talking about the surface of Venus. And I've told you this joke in another context before, but the real joke to begin with, this one, I can't believe that somebody's dinosaurs thing, I nailed that. I remembered that word for word, but I didn't know if I'd be able to because I hadn't said it in a long time. But there's this other thing about the heat in Arizona. It sounds like science was like, you're talking about the surface. Okay, it was like this. You're talking about the surface of Venus, or some post-Holocaust greenhouse effect nightmare Earth, where the oceans have boiled, humans have mutated into 2 distinct subspecies, surface dwellers with heat-retarding exoskeletons, something. There was a little more about them, and then these subterranean, shit. I can't remember the rest, but it was like these, they've got, what's the word where, vestigial, like with, was there a vestigial tail thing? Or maybe it was vestigial eyes that no longer function. They see by some kind of sonar. And it was something about anyway, it was really colorful and wordy stuff. And I still like writing in that kind of voice. But But that one show, Bo, do you happen to remember, does any of that? I like what you're saying. Where was I? And I remind you, people of the earth. That's right, people of the earth. That sounds hilarious. Let me check up present. Denise is laughing. Darla's present. Bill just tuned in. Bill, there's so much. Paul, glad you're liking the stories. Present. Susan, Denise, several of us. Love the heckler story. Even in my non-comedian life, Netreamer says, I have moments when I accidentally say something funny that sets up an even funnier line. But doing that on stage in front of everyone is amazing. German military antiques. What are you all about? That's very German of you. 22. 5 minutes ago on Periscope. You guys aren't seeing this, but there's a... Are you still out there, Periscope guy? His username, German Military Antiques. And what are you all about? That's what he opens with. What are you all about? I don't know. What am I all about? I'm just a temporary manifestation of the evolving DNA molecule. I'm just, oh man, there was a little more to that. That's a little something. Temporary manifestation of the evolving, something with something with legs. Something about a day job, or something with a day job. Nuclear, I don't know. Bill, Paul, love the closer. It did add a bit of hiss. Shit, Albert, what was that to? The gain? Are you talking, what added a little bit of hiss? Or are you making a joke? Darla, I can't wait until future generations get a hold of our Echoes and Google Home thingers. They're gonna laugh so hard. Albert, you remember that bit? Mole people, I know. Yeah. I have a vague memory of that material, Bo. I'll tell you the Drew Carey story, but yeah, that 125, comics have shorthands. Like if I write a set list down, I'll just write 125 degrees, just 125 stands for that bit. And, what changed is that some of you might remember me telling you a story about part of that heat in Arizona bit, because what happened is something happened during the telling of that joke. Here's one way I handle hecklers, Darla, is I was telling that joke somewhere at a science museum. I had written it back in my comedy club days, but I was at a science museum in Washington, D.C. called the Marion Koshland Science Museum. It was the Marion Koshland Museum of Science, and it was an outlet of the National Academy of Sciences. And I did a few shows there. I did 3 annual shows, 3 years in a row. And at one of them, when I said something about the heat in Arizona, and I said 125 degrees, and I said, you're talking about the surface of Venus. This was, so even with my more respectful crowd, this was a museum show, science geeky audience. And when I said 125 degrees, you're talking about the surface of Venus, someone in the back went, no, Venus is much hotter than that. And I knew that. I was using a comedic device called exaggeration. So here's how I don't remember what I said there. I mean, I probably poked fun, but the way I handle that heckler in the big picture is it became a different story. I stopped telling the whole subterranean humans and the heat-retarding exoskeletons that live in hives, have a caste system like the social insects. Okay, I just remembered part of that. Hold on. You're talking about you're talking about the surface of Venus, or some post-Holocaust, greenhouse effect, nightmare Earth, the oceans have boiled, humans have mutated into 2 distinct subspecies. Like, that would get a laugh. Like, the way that played also, too, is like right there, people would be laughing and they have no idea that I'm just getting started. Like, there's more. Because it's kind of absurd. Some of the humor, I think, in writing in this voice is that it's absurd for me to even be using this language, but it's also colorful and funny and interesting, in my own estimation. So I'd go, greenhouse effect, nightmare, Earth, the oceans are boiled, humans are mutated into 2 distinct subspecies. Surface dwellers with heat-retarding exoskeletons that live in giant hives, have a caste system like the social insects. And then these fur-covered, burrowing mongrels with vestigial eyes that no longer function, they see by some kind of sonar, spend most of their time... See, you know what happened there is when I remembered those other lines, those helped me remember the beginning of this one. But there's the crucial final line here, and I know what it's about, but I don't have it. Then these fur-covering mongrel, like subterranean, like with vestigial eyes that no longer function, they see by some kind of sonar, spend most of their time. It was something about fighting with the insect people. It would like came back around to like something about a struggle or fighting for food or something. I can't remember the last. Okay, Ellen is present but leaving soon. 2307. Huh. All right, Ellen, thanks for stopping by. Stay inside, Ellen. Just for a few weeks, be more careful than you have the past few weeks. Please, everyone tell Ellen to be careful. She's in Georgia, for crying out loud. She might as well be on the outskirts of Chernobyl or something. Okay, so the vestigialized and no longer friends they see by some kind of sonar, spend most of their time defending themselves from frequent raids by the ant people, something like that. That's what it was, like defending them. Isn't it? It's funny how memory works. That damn file, those files are in there. They were in there the first time. How come I couldn't access them? Who designed this shit? I made a query. I expect the file to come up. What is this? Bits and pieces of the file. What is this ragged shit? It's like the dog got hold of my homework. This is unacceptable. Right? Ellen found 2 Palm devices to send me. Really? Oh, I'll take them. And Ellen, remember, if you happen to find the disc, if you look for the CD that has your Mac, if you have the disc that has your Mac OS, hey, Albert, did you hear me state my problem? Ellen sent me an old laptop, and using disk utility, I wiped it and tried to reinstall the drive, and it failed. It was trying to reinstall Lion, and it gets online, and it's missing some files. But I know it can handle more than Lion. I don't remember what OS she upgraded to, but I need some OS on a thumb drive. I just need a Mac OS that I can install because it's failed. I wiped her machine and it failed to let me reinstall the OS. Help. If you can help, that would be awesome. Yeah, Ellen, when you say Palm devices, do you mean like a Palm Pilot? You still have those? That would be interesting. Well, Albert, if you don't have any Mac OS discs, do you have a suggestion? Did you hear, I don't know if you were there when here's the error message. Oh, I have to scroll back to it. When I tried to install it, it said, oh, you know what's hilarious? First it said, it started the install process, and it said about how much time remaining to do the install. Listen to this number it gave me. This is, if I had a screen, hang on a sec. Hold your horses. I know I don't have to do this, but this is so much better. Give me 1 sec. Sending, and then this one. Give me 1 moment in this other mode. This, cover all that. And let me just bring the images in. And let me show you, because it's kind of hilarious. Text. No. What am I bringing in? An image. One second. And don't worry, I'll tell you the Drew Carey story. First find my downloads. And then 451. Can only bring in one at a time. And let me bring the second one in. Browse. 441. Is it this one? Or did I just bring in the same one? Ah, that is not it. Sorry, I'm being dense. Okay. Have to resize them. I'll be with you in just a second. Oh. That's not gonna... That's not very readable. You know, that was a bad picture I took off the screen. Darn it. Sorry, this is turned out to be... I'm not satisfied. Okay. I guess it may not be readable. Make it just a little smaller. Okay. After all that, so there. Well, Bo, you say you think it sounds like a failing drive. So it needed to get online. Like, hear this error. It says can't download the additional components. So somebody else led me to believe that it was like looking for some files for the Mac OS Lion, Mac OS X Lion, and maybe those files are not where they used to be some years ago. But why does it need to do that anyway? Why? I don't understand. My voice audio wasn't there? My voice audio wasn't there? I can't believe I made that same mistake again. So you didn't get to hear me say I was so excited and I was reading about negative 2,147,483,648 hours and 13 minutes remaining. How long is that? Negative 2 billion hours. We have negative 1 hour remaining. What does that even mean? Yeah, the nature of this, I have to go into every scene that I create, and I didn't bring in this, when you create a scene, you add all the audio and video sources or whatever else you want. So, that's how long we've been waiting for the Drew Carey story. Have you really been waiting? I didn't add video. I know, now Darla will send a link. Auction. Oh, yeah. I'm holding the keys on the side. Like, here's what you do. First of all, I did that in order to get in there and wipe the drive, using the built-in disk utility, and then using the built-in, after you wipe the drive, you get this menu, and you have like 4 things you can do, and one of them is reinstall the OS. And I tell it to reinstall the OS, but it needs to be connected to the internet. So one of the things you can do still in that safe mode is you can get on my Wi-Fi, which I did. So it was on, and I told it to try again, and then it said it failed to find those files. So I followed the instructions for wiping the drive and installing the new OS. It failed because of this not finding files business. Yeah. So understand, like, when I was any of those times I lost the audio, what happened is just that's a scene that I didn't go to and add this audio as a source because I didn't know I was going to go to that scene at the start of the show. And anyway, that was in my brain too. Old Mac Ellen had a farm. Okay. The wiped Mac. Why do you think it's a bad drive? Where did you get the idea that it's a bad drive? It was still functioning. I feel like it was just something about the OS got corrupt. That's what I was hoping. But Ellen, what did you say? It's like a 2015, I think. Would a 2015 have come with OS X Lion? Potentially. It's a MacBook Pro, but I think it's a 13-inch. And I think it's 2015. Unfortunately, after wiping it, I can't pull down the Apple menu and see that's one thing I can't do is pull down the Apple menu and tell you the stats. Yeah, Finder window, anything, any task, but a failing drive, you say. But I was just kind of hoping it was something in the software was corrupt, and you wipe it and it would all be better. If it's not possible, that's okay. You're building up the Drew Carey story like it's more interesting than blah 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 blah. It may not be. Let's not get our hopes up too high. Listen, low expectations are the key to happiness. Ellen, are you gone? Isn't it a 2015? Or is it older than that? You wouldn't have an even older one than that. Well, I mean, that's all fine. Am I able to go to some Apple site and download an OS, like onto a thumb, and then put it on a thumb drive, and then put it on her machine? But I only wanted to use her old laptop to run Skype, to serve as a source machine, to feed into this machine, to do live interviews. Can that really take an SSD? Interesting. Everyone is saying yes, but I'm not sure what you're saying yes to. All right. But I mean, it would have to be really cheap because I don't want to put anything into it. But the thing is, I still need to get an OS on there. And the process for installing the operating system failed. So how do I get the OS onto the machine? Because that error isn't from a failed drive. Okay, we'll move on to something. Oh, it's 2012. I had a feeling 2015 was too new. It's a 2012. I don't think it can run the current OS. And I don't know if it can take an SSD, can it? It's a 2012. That's a whole other world. Do you know how much life changed between 2012 and 2015? 2012 to 2016, that's when I moved to Raleigh and worked at the museum here for 4 years and then quit. Okay. Hey, Bo, can I download an OS that's not the most recent OS? I don't think her 2012 machine, can you tell me? A 2012 MacBook Pro 13-inch. What OS can that run? Okay. Let's see if I can remember the very last line. Let me see. And then these fur-covered burrowing mongrels with vestigial eyes that no longer function, they see by some kind of sonar, spend most of their time defending themselves from... Maybe it's frequent raids by the ant people? And then I'd say something about the heat getting to my brain. But it was very crazy and elaborate. Okay. Well, I hope so. I mean, they have a way to reinstall the OS. And I tried it, and it failed. And it said it was unable to download... Can't download the additional components needed to install Mac OS X. That's what it said. Thank you, Albert. Okay. The Drew Carey Story by Brian Malow. And then maybe we'll close with this. It's been a good night. It's a weeknight. It's late. I thought I should... Hey, by the way, I didn't even mention... We didn't talk about the virus, really. I have 2 interviews with virologists. That's what I've also been working on. They're long, but they're really good. But it's a lot of material to go through. 2 very long interviews. 1 very, very long interview. And 1 longish interview. 2 more virologists that are very different from each other. And they're different interviews. And... I learned a lot, and they're very interesting, but I have to start getting out some new stuff. But tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern, you might have seen I posted for Sigma Xi, I'm going to be part of a presentation that looks really interesting. It's about vaping and e-cigarettes. And the scientist speaker, it's a Zoom meeting. I posted it on my 2 Facebook pages and on Twitter. If you have to, it's free, but you have to register and get the password for the Zoom meeting. I don't know if I think you have to register or you might not get let in. I'm not sure how that works. But first, the scientist is going to give a talk. She's a specialist, a professor in pediatrics and toxicology and environmental science. And she'll be talking about e-cigarettes and vaping. And when she's done with her talk, I'm going to interview her for about 20 minutes or something. So it's only about an hour and a half program. She gives a half-hour talk. I interview her for like 20 or so. But I'm looking forward to it. It should be pretty cool. And Albert, I know that's a subject. I've seen you post about it before, and it'll be very interesting to hear what she has to say about it and what's the current state of knowledge. And yeah, thanks. All the different strains of virus. Yes, two different. So, and even different. Like for instance, the man, Dr. Mark Peoples, he's at Children's something. He's in Ohio. He works at a hospital and university in Ohio, and all I really had to do was this. Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus. He's a principal investigator. And so he's a researcher whose research has been on a different respiratory virus called RSV. And the R, it's like, the S is a word that's very hard to pronounce. The V is virus and the R is respiratory, but it's like respiratory syncytial or something virus. Oh, I probably have that right in front of me too, but even with the word in front of me, it's hard to pronounce. Respiratory syncytial virus. But he's worked on that virus for 46 years, and they don't have a vaccine for that virus. It's not a coronavirus. It is a respiratory virus. Well, his lab is currently working on SARS-CoV-2. They've like, their research into RSV is on hold. And so this is a thing that's happening all over the world. People that are, all sorts of resources are being called in. And a lot of people don't know that. They wonder what's being done. It's like, well, one thing that's being done is all over the world, scientists are working really hard on this problem. And scientists that worked on other things that were different but maybe related. So it's not a coronavirus, but it's a respiratory virus. And they know a lot about this. They're doing a lot of the same sort of stuff they would do on their virus. But he knew some really good stuff. I learned some interesting things about, here's an interesting tidbit. You might have heard that this virus has this like lipid membrane and it has these spike proteins. And if you've seen the representation, these spike proteins stick out all around. Well, that's apparently a really big protein. And it serves the function of, well, it actually, a lot of times, two different proteins on the surface of a virus would serve these two different roles. But this spike protein does two things. There's one thing which is like it attaches. It finds the cell and the ACE2 receptor and it attaches. But then there's this other part of it that is the fusion protein. And what happens is when it attaches, then it unfolds in a way, and they know how it does this. Which again, it's so funny to me. When people are anti-vax or something, or they say this is all bullshit, it's like, you don't even know the level. Like you don't understand vaccines, or you want to say that this isn't real, and yet the people that are studying it, they have already mapped this virus. They not only know its genome, but they've determined the structure of the proteins on the surface, separate from the genes. There's like the proteins that it makes. They know the shape of them. And they know that they know the three-dimensional shape of the protein, and then they look for a place that, oh, look, like he said, like a crevice. And it's like, maybe we can design another protein that will attach right there and then disrupt the way it functions. So it's like when people that are non-scientists are skeptical and say, oh, and I know this from someone I have a peripheral relationship to that I discovered is really anti-vax and says that like vaccines, that's not why measles or polio went away. Polio didn't go away because of the vaccine. It went to this. Yeah, tell that to the people that determined the three-dimensional structure of the proteins on the surface and then designed a way to make it less lethal. These people are actually working with it. And this guy also believed that this other conspiracy that the HIV virus doesn't cause AIDS. And it's like, they know that it does. It's like, you don't, but your research is looking at YouTube videos and looking at, junk online. Anyway, What's fascinating, though, this is like, so this spike protein attaches to a cell, and then it fuses the membranes, and then its membrane fuses with the membrane of the cell, and then it spills its guts, which is its genetic material, into the cell, and then it just does its thing. I mean, the cell does its thing. The material, all this thing does is it dumps its genetic material inside the cell, and then the cell just starts copying those genes like it would copy any other genes. In this case, or wait, he was talking about in the case of his RSV one, I think, sometimes it's even more complex. It's so fascinating, though. I'll tell you more about that later. But the one thing that I learned that I thought was super fascinating, it's like you've heard that there's like a membrane in these proteins, and the membrane is this lipid membrane. And it's as horrible as the virus is, that lipid membrane, it's just chemistry. Soap or alcohol are immediately very destructive to it. And if you destroy the membrane, then it's completely useless. The virus is completely useless. So, hello, Juan Sweeney. Oh. Juan Sweeney came in to spam us. Subscribe to Bragan. He is a thick Robloxian gamer. Robloxians rise up. Robloxians unite. Well, okay. Here's the little tidbit that I learned. He said that the polio virus, different kind of virus, it doesn't have that lipid membrane. The polio virus, the outside is all protein. And that polio virus, you can dry it out and crystallize it. And then when it gets wet again, it's fine. It's still intact and it's still virulent. It's very long lasting because it does not have that vulnerable membrane. I forget, he told me like that membrane gives some advantages, but then it also makes it very vulnerable. But the polio virus is a tough virus, and it can withstand lots of kinds of conditions because it does not have that. It is solid protein on the outside, so it can become crystallized, dry out, be re-wet. It can flow downstream, infect people down there. So it's a very dangerous virus, but we have a great vaccine for it. Let's see. Oh, sure, Zoom with them, not with the peasants here. No, you need to come. It's my Sigma's Eye thing. You need to come join us. You have to submit text messages like medieval peasants. Paul, don't necessarily worry about the DC story. I just love hearing comedians' war stories. Oh, it's a good one, though. If you're still there, Paul, I'm going to tell it now. Respiratory syncytial virus, RSV, common respiratory, and it mostly affects children. It mostly kills children. And older people, I think, with underlying conditions. Yeah, especially for infants and older adults, exactly. Sorry, Drew. No, here comes the juice. It's not too late to chant. A 2012 can run Maverick Sierra install from your working Mac onto an external drive, a fresh install. Okay. Imagine if it takes 6 years for like it took for polio. Yeah, you know what? Mark showed me a picture. It was his 6th birthday. And, it was about measles. I think he had measles. And they had just discovered the virus not too many years before. And they had, 6 years later, they had a vaccine. Hey, Mark, this guy's been working on a vaccine. And he's not the only one. But he personally has been working on that RSV virus for 46 years. And they don't have a vaccine. And I don't remember. I mean, there's different reasons, but they haven't been able to develop a vaccine for it. But, yeah, he did tell me about some techniques they have. For instance, imaging, he said there are things that he wished he had back then. There are new tools that make things that used to take years or were impossible. And one is called cryo-EM. I guess electromicrograph and cryo, and I guess maybe but what they're able to do with this technique is they take a lot of pictures of this virus down on the atomic level, like electron micrograph level. They take a whole bunch of pictures of it, and then they average them out, and they get the structure. And he said there's some parts of the structure that fade out, though. There's some parts that are flexible, and so they don't. There's some parts that they don't know the structure very well. But for most of the virus, the virion is what you call the virus particle. They know the structure really well. And then theoretically they know stuff too, because he said something like the tip has this hydrophobic head, and it does, like, because of their understanding of chemistry is how they can predict the structure and design something to interfere with it. But that's only one kind. So that's one kind of vaccine, one kind of protection. I don't even know if that's considered a vaccine. But one type of treatment would be, can you create something that interferes with the function of that spike protein? Because it attaches to it, and then it can never attach to the cell, and then we're safe from it. But, the measles vaccine, what they did with that is they bred it in the lab generations and generations, and that mutates. It gathers mutations. A lot of the mutations render it completely non-functional, but the strains that some become more virulent, some they keep breeding it until they get a version of it that's less virulent. And then they tested it on primates. So what they did is basically just in the lab using cell cultures, they used cultures of cells, infect them with the virus, let it run its course, let it breed, let it mutate, until they end up with a strain of the measles virus that is still the measles virus, but it's much less virulent. And if we put it in you, you get the immune response, and you might get, it just doesn't cause as much disease. It doesn't cause all the symptoms. In a small number of people, maybe it will. You might get a little something, but what it really does is it stimulates the immune response, and then your body knows it and has the antibodies, and you're protected from it in the future. One way that they might develop a vaccine for SARS-CoV-2 is you take the measles vaccine, which contains the measles virus in its less virulent form. And then the gene from this new virus that encodes the big spike protein, they take that gene, that spike protein is not in the measles virus, but if they insert that gene into that measles virus, the less virulent one, then that virus now not only is a measles virus but less virulent, it also has the gene to make that spike protein. So if you were to infect someone with that, it would cause the spike protein to express and exist, and that would get antibodies specific to it, but the rest of the SARS-CoV-2 virus wouldn't be involved. So only that one, so you would just take the gene that makes that one protein, and then we would get an immune response and antibodies to it that way. So that's one kind of vaccine that some people are working on. Pretty cool, isn't it? And then in the face of that, when people are like, this is like, it's just so funny to me that someone thinks they know, it's like vaccines are bullshit and all this. It's like, you know what? These guys have been, for decades, people have been working on this on the molecular and the atomic level, studying the genetic code, studying the function of these in labs over and over. Thousands of scientists all over the world, hundreds, maybe millions, who knows? So anyway, very interesting. RSV deaths, about 14,000 a year. Polio were about 2,000 before the vaccine. Surely polio must have been worse than that in some places, because I thought not just 2,000 deaths per year. That's not, because I thought polio back then was I don't know. I just feel like I thought it was a worse scourge than that. Okay. So you guys have been awesome. We've already done 2 hours and 40 minutes and 8 seconds. We never dropped any frames. Let's do a final check. Am I in sync? And let's check the audio one. Is this in sync? Ooh. That was way too loud on the... Let's lose the Yeti. And let's see if I can get to this in time to see that. That was way too loud on the... Let's lose the Yeti. Those claps are way too loud for the mic. Let's see if I can get to this in time to see at the new recording level. So have my words been in sync with my lips the whole time? Now he's just going to watch that, and he's useless to me. All right. Did I become too loud? I mean, I'm not pinging there, but boy, those... Oh, encoding overloaded. I just got a weird error message. Did anything just happen to the video quality? Hey, y'all. Did something just happen? Did we get any part of problems in the stream? Because I just saw a message that said some kind of encoding. Okay, no, I don't see any problem. All right. Well, whatever. No drop frames, but then I got this weird encoding message and said error. We'll see what the video looks like later. But here we go. Are you sure you even want this story? Darla, are you even still out there? Darla, are you out there? Okay. But didn't nothing weird happened where, like, I don't know, my beard is gone. Okay. There's so many parts to this story. So you're not helping with any sync or video problems until we take care of Drew. All right, here we go. I see you there, Darla. All right, here we go. So, unfortunately, I have an inability to place things in time. Somewhere, I do have a little ad clipped out of a local paper that shows me and Drew Carey working together at this club in Minneapolis that no longer exists. But, I mean, when did he become famous for his own show? Or whatever first launched him to big fame? Somebody give me a year on that. Because it was before that. The video jumped a couple times 10 or 15 minutes ago. Well, that's interesting. There may have been a previous time when that error message was there that I wasn't looking. Okay, so I would guess this was sometime in the 90s, in the 1990s, in the previous century. Albert, I worked with... See, Darla, right there, I would have to give Albert. Albert said, too late, I'm not interested in anymore. I would have to give him the disapproving mom look. Albert, remember on my old show, I had a picture of my mom, and she was kind of looking like this. I took a picture of her when she didn't want to be photographed, and she's kind of looking like me, like... And I sometimes used it on my old show, and I was like, you get a disapproving mom look, and I could show that picture. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. 90 cents. So sometime in the mid 90s, I worked at a club in Minneapolis, and don't remember the name of the club. It doesn't exist anymore, but I was middling. There was probably an opening act, and then me, and Drew Carey was the headliner. One thing I remember is that Drew had a computer on the road with him back then. Oh, it might have been earlier than that, because this was unheard of. I'd never encountered this. What he was using CompuServe, and he had some kind of computer that it was pretty big. It was not a laptop. It wasn't exactly a desktop. I forget what it was, but it like had a flattish area, and then the back section was taller, and he brought it on the road with him. But like I said, it was hard. It was not a laptop, but it was portable of some sort, and he used CompuServe. And I remember that he also like used it to meet people, even female people, and he probably, 1991 appeared on Carson. He may have already appeared on Carson, but he definitely had not been on the Drew Carey Show, which began in 95. So it was before 95, early 90s, let's say. Oh, well, here's something else I know. I was living in Austin. In 1992, we can put an earlier date on it. I moved to Los Angeles in 1992. And I'm almost certain that I was living in Austin when I did this. So pre-92. A long, long time ago. I can almost remember. When you say the overload was then, that's not the overload message I saw. The overload message I saw was right when I said it. And you're talking about something that was like 20 or half an hour ago. So it may have done it then too, and I didn't notice. Your CompuServe ID, I don't know how I remember this. CompuServe was the late 80s. And maybe the late 80s, and it has to be pre-92. And also imagine what kind of computer he had on the road with him. I wish I remembered what brand it was. So he was nice enough. We hung out a little bit. He told me some stories. One story about meeting someone that I won't tell because it wouldn't be cool. I can tell you privately, but I'll tell you my story. So this has to do with hecklers, Darla. One night, while I was on stage, I was telling this old joke of mine where it was about hunters. And the funny thing is, I'm not sure I remember the original hunters, the joke that I told. But out of this incident came a new joke and a new way of telling this whole joke. So at some point, I asked the audience if there's any hunters here. And I said, "What do you hunt?" And a guy yelled out, "Faggots." And I can't remember the order of things here, but I didn't have a snappy comeback. It killed the room, and I didn't have a snappy comeback. I came up with my snappy comeback like on the drive home. Later that night, I came up with my snappy comeback. A little too late. But at the time, it just created a real uncomfortable and ugly feeling in the room. And I'm sure, I basically recovered, but I don't think that I recovered well. And I'm going to tell you the comeback I came up with and what came of that. But I'm trying to think. Let's go on with the story and see if that becomes clear. Because I'm trying to think how much of the joke had already been written of this hunter's joke. But I fumbled my way through some bullshit. And then, gradually maybe I got the audience back, but all I know is like I didn't have a great recovery that time. But on the way home later that night, I came up with the perfect comeback, which I go, any hunters out there, what do you hunt? And he goes, faggots. And I should have said, do you eat everything you catch? And it would have slayed. So what happened is, I incorporated that. Oh, hey, John O. I'm telling an old story. So here's how I incorporated it. The way the bit came, it's like I would ask, so never again. I told that joke for years that same way, where I would go, any hunters, what do you hunt? And people would yell out things like, where there were a couple kinds of answers. There was one kind of answer which was something like they'd go squirrel, or they'd say something really small and like it's laughable to me. It's like, what do you hunt? Pheasant or squirrel? And I would mock them for being the big hunter. And it's like, do you even use a gun for that or just a stick? Bam, bam, bam. And it was like squirrel. Like somebody, more than once, people said squirrel. And you actually use a gun for that or just a stick? Yeah, those are my nuts. Some, stay away from my nuts or something. Damn squirrel. Or they would say something with sexual, like double entendre, but no one ever said faggot again. What they said, they would say stuff like this. I go, what do you hunt? People would go, pussy. And then I would say, then I had my line. Do you eat everything you catch? And it would slay. And here's the thing that I was telling you. Sometimes you riff something once and then you use it later. Well, to the audience, to most of the people in the audience, they heard me ask, what do you hunt? They heard someone yell pussy, and then they heard me quickly say, do you eat everything you catch? And it seemed spontaneous. How could I have known that guy would say that, and how quickly I said that? But the truth is, if you do this at shows all the time, every night, you find that you get these answers that are going to be small creatures, and you can mock them for that. Or you get someone saying pussy, or tail, or white tail, or so you can tell they're saying something. I can't think of the other variations, like girls, what do you hunt? Girls. And do you eat everything you catch? Became a great punchline for those situations. But it was even better for that first guy. Because that first guy, him saying faggot, him being an asshole and a bigot and homophobic, like it would have been so perfect to say to him when he said, faggots, do you eat everything you catch? He's the guy that deserved that punchline every time. And unfortunately, I came up with it too late. And unfortunately, fortunately, no one ever said that again at one of my shows. But I did get to use the line for these other cases. But the guy that deserved it, I missed the opportunity. So that's the Drew Carey story. See what I told you? See, you're totally underwhelmed. You've all left and gone home. You've taken your toys and gone home. Oh. Huh. For all these years. Oh, John O, you were over on Facebook. That's why I don't see your comment here. For all these years, I thought you were so incredibly clever. I've been living a lie. Yeah. We prepare comedians prepare a lot of the material we do before we go on stage. Hey, Paul, were you still out here for that stuff? When I finally told my Drew Carey story? I told you it wasn't that much, but it is something. It's like I take that one very personally because I didn't have it for him. He was an asshole. He needed to be put in his place. And I came up with it too late. And no one else ever said that. So I wonder, who was that guy? He's in my head. I'll always remember. Even though I couldn't remember hardly what decade it happened in or anything else. Jono, asking audiences questions is the reason improv troupes highly encourage a lot of responses. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. When you see someone and they go around, they go, what do you do for a living? And someone says lawyer, and they make a really funny lawyer remark, and it sounds very fun. Well, guess what? If you always ask people what they do for a living, all of these jobs are going to come up over time. And so it's possible that, so it doesn't mean that things aren't, comedians do riff things. But a lot of times we say things that sure look like they're spontaneous, but and it doesn't even seem like it, like unless you think about it deeply, you're like, well, how could he have known? He didn't know what that guy was going to say. Yeah, but do you know how many times people have said lawyer? Yeah, John, so they can pick an answer they have a joke for. Now, on the other hand, you know, back in our, John, in Austin at the back in the Laugh Stop days, I remember Paula Poundstone. She was so good. She talked to the crowd a lot, and it wasn't standard stuff, not what you do for a living, but she had this really relaxed manner. She'd sit a lot of the time. She'd be sitting on the bar stool, very relaxed and very casually talking, and the stuff that she would riff, which I'm going to say a lot of this stuff was definitely spontaneous. It was just as clever as her act. It was so well done. Stuff that I'm pretty sure was spontaneous. She was just amazing at that. And the stuff she said was, I swear it was as well crafted as the jokes in her act. Sue Murphy as well, Paul says. Yeah, Sue is very funny. Yeah, some comics are amazing at crowd work, and definitely Paula Poundstone, so good. But I mean, the thing that impressed me was that it's like, oh my God, like it was elaborate stuff. It wasn't like she wouldn't just have like, oh, you're a lawyer, blah, 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 blah. She would get into a conversation with them, and she's kind of she has that slow, thoughtful vibe where she's really engaging them. She's not just mocking, she's engaging with them and thinking it through, and then it ends up just having the same feel as the pre-written stuff. So yeah, she's great. I haven't really kept up with her, and I know she's really well known now on what's that well-known radio show and podcast. NetReamer says, is there a trick for audience members to know when something really is spontaneous? I still swear I saw Bobby Slayton do something unplanned, but I'll never really know. Yeah, it can be really hard to tell. There's another thing that we do sometimes, like this joke where I'd go, I was talking about getting a haircut. Here's something I haven't done in a while about getting a haircut, and that to those of us who wear glasses, there is nothing, in fact, that could almost be a word. There's no thing as terrifying as that moment at the start of your haircut when you take off your glasses and then you don't have them for the rest of the haircut. Anyway, this little thing where I would go, and I didn't even do it well just now, but I would go, there is nothing, in fact, that could almost be a word. There is no thing as terrifying as that moment. And if I delivered it well, it always sounded like that was a spontaneous fuck up thing. There's nothing, like a spontaneous realization. But the thing is, I used it all the time. But there was something very satisfying about that joke, because that is not one that I riffed on stage for the first time. I was sitting at the computer one day and I was writing that. And I got to that moment, and that's what I wrote. I was like, there's no thing, nothing. And the first time I did it was in San Francisco. I was living in San Francisco. It was Cobb's Comedy Club, and it was the showcase night. Not exactly open mic night, but it's the night that it was a showcase and many comics go on. And the first time I did it, so like I'm saying, it wasn't ever riffed. It was riffed at the computer. So the first time I did it, I was faking it. And it killed. And a comedian came up to me and it's like, hey, by the way, you know when you said that thing, you should use that. And I felt completely vindicated because I had fooled a comedian. I was like, dude, it's like he was doing me a favor to go, hey, in case you don't remember, there's this moment you had that was spontaneous that was very funny. And I had to tell him, it's like, I wrote that this afternoon. I tricked you. I fooled you. This is like Magic Secrets Revealed, but for comedy, yeah. That joke, though, hey, John, I think I've told you this story. Our mutual friend, Ron White, I was working with Ron White in more recent, so this is much more recent. This is only like, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 years ago. I don't know how long ago it was. But I saw Ron do the same thing, and I fell for it. He said something about going on a USO tour, and that's the fuck up. And then he goes, and then he made some jokes that involved the UFOs. Like but the thing is, I totally fell for it, and I did the exact same thing. I went up to him, and I was like, hey, man, when you said that was really funny. You should use that. And you know what I should have done? I was working with him, and we were doing another show that night. If I had only waited, I would have seen him do it the next show, and I would have known, oh, it's a bit. But he got me, too. He delivered it well enough that I totally thought that it was spontaneous. He gave it the right. So that's the acting part sometimes. For me, like, I think I stopped delivering that one well. Like, you have to really, you can't be projecting that you know what's coming. It has to really be, I was looking for a word. There's no thing, nothing, in fact. Ellen says, happy Cinco de Mayo. It'll be packed at the restaurants. Yeah, no Mexican food tomorrow. It is, it's, once you can fake sincere spontaneity, you can fake anything. Yeah, Ron White stories. I have some good Ron White stories. A lot of them probably, this isn't the forum for me to tell you the stories. Paul Olson says, I think if you're rehearsed and can relax, you can be present in that moment and comedy space. Written stuff can come off spontaneous. Yeah. Now, and interestingly, not everyone aims for that spontaneous feel. George Carlin versus Louis C.K. Louis C.K., his whole delivery sounds very conversational and spontaneous, but it's so well crafted that it's not spontaneous. George Carlin, on the other hand, and I don't even, I'm not saying one of these is better than the other. These are just two different styles. George Carlin, his stuff reeks of being crafted, perfectly crafted, every word and the delivery. He doesn't do spontaneous, he doesn't have a conversational style. He has a musical style. This stuff is written and delivered, it's a production. And you can tell. And when there's one or two of his specials, there's a special of his where somebody a few times yells things out, and sometimes you can tell that there's he doesn't want to be interrupted at all because he has a thing going. He's got a rhythm going. He's got a melody going. His act is so musical, and every word is great. And he does these long things that are clearly written. So, just two different styles. where he doesn't even try to give the impression that he's just thinking of this stuff. It's like, yeah, I thought of all this stuff, I wrote this, and it's to be presented this way, like a song. You don't have Cinco de Mayo in Canada? Do you have May? Do you have the month of May? Is the month of May in Canada? And you have the 5th of May. You have the 4th. So you have May the 4th, but not Cinco de Mayo? Oh my God. You are so racist, you Canadians. You'll celebrate Star Wars Day, but not Cinco de Mayo. Both ruined by a virus named Corona. A coronavirus. Carlin was a Grammy, yeah, pretty amazing. And you know what? I'm so jealous because he had really smart science-y material. And then he also had the crude fart jokes and dick jokes and the word jokes. I always, Carlin was a big influence on me and probably the reason I had a lot of jokes about language. I mean, sometimes it's hard to tease apart if something is an influence or it's that it resonates with you because that's how your mind already works. Like some things you like I think about, I've written a lot of lyrics and there's certain lyricists that I like a lot. And did they influence the way I write lyrics or do I like them because the way they write lyrics is like, oh yeah, that's the way I would write it too. You know what I mean? So sometimes you like things because it's like, oh, that's already the way my mind works too. That's the way I would think. This is the kind of stuff I would do. I like that George Carlin word stuff because I like word stuff. But in the case of George Carlin, he made that imprint on me when I was so young. I was listening to George Carlin and some Richard Pryor and Steve Martin albums and Monty Python albums and the album from the first crew, Saturday Night Live, the original crew, put out, the original cast, put out an album, new shimmers of floor wax and a dessert topping. George Carlin, Richard Pryor, several Monty Python albums, and who else? I don't know. Those were early influences on my comedy mind. So George Carlin, and then Isaac Asimov too. Not a comedian, but very rational mind, very linear thinking, and funny too. And like talking about science, but bringing personality to it. That's how I first learned science. Albert and our friend Chuck and I, we were learning. We were good students in our science classes, but we were reading Isaac Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke nonfiction, and learning science outside of school as well. From our science fiction, and then these couple science fiction writers who also wrote science fact. Cheech and Chong. I didn't have the Cheech and Chong albums, but my neighbor, James Zamanek, did, and I remember being at his house listening to Cheech and Chong albums. Louis C.K.'s jokes on parenting, those were so good. They lost Cinco de Mayo and NAFTA, Mark. Well, you guys, we did it. And does this all look in sync? Cheech and Chong. So now, the one other test, the final test, will be when we're done, and I look at these things tomorrow, is my locally recorded file in sync? And if I look at Facebook on my iPhone, is that in sync? And if I scroll around, does it stay in sync? If that's, I don't know what to do about that if that's a problem. But I think we've been very successful with all the tech stuff today. James Zamanek. You remember that name, Mark? Paul said your brother had the Cheech and Chong albums and would beat me up if I played them. Dave's not here, man. Earache My Eye. There was a song. My mother died, hard to see. Because my head is like a sieve. That's all I remember. And also, when I was really friendly with James Amanek, it was like 5th or 6th grade or something, and you know, I didn't know anything about Cheech and Chong and drugs and all that. That stuff would all come later for me, but I wonder what young Brian made of all that, because I didn't know anything about, I was very sheltered from anything like that, so I don't know what I thought. Hey Elephant, There was one, yeah, Facebook has technical issues. I grew up on Jerry Clower and Hee Haw. Jerry Clower, I grew up on Hee Haw too, and the Donnie and Marie Show, and the Sonny and Cher Show, and the Smothers Brothers, and Laugh-In, and the Carol Burnett Show. Like, my sister, we really grew up on that stuff. The Carol Burnett Show, and Tim Conway, and Harvey Korman, and what did you say? Hee Haw. We totally, yeah, we were watching all that stuff. Wow, TV has changed. Are there variety shows like that at all? I mean, I guess things like the Oscars and the Grammys become sort of like variety shows. They even have comedy sketches or pre-recorded bits and things, and a comedian host, and then musical performances. But we don't really have, do we have, you know, here's another take on the variety show. Even before those, I've seen, I didn't grow up with this, but Woody Allen, in his earliest days, when he was still a comedian and hadn't become a filmmaker, he was on TV a lot, but this was a little before our time. This was probably in the 60s. And one year, Woody Allen looks at 1967. So 1967, you can go see this on YouTube. Those are just some clips. But if you can find it, it's got some great, it's Woody Allen looks at 1967, and it's sketches and musical performances. I want to say there's a performance of, what was on it? Well, I don't want to say. I think I'm going to misspeak. But Liza Minnelli and what's the guy's name? We used to like him a lot too. This is so funny. I wish I could play it, but I think it'll not work right. What, Liza Minnelli? Yeah, I think Aretha Franklin might sing Respect on the show. And, John Biner. John Biner is another guy that, and remember Super Dave Osborne? Where would we have seen him? It's Albert Brooks's brother. Do you know this bit of trivia? That Albert Brooks and his brother, that their last name is Einstein, and that Albert Brooks's real name is Albert Einstein. I think he was named for Albert Einstein, but he changed his name to Albert Brooks because he couldn't be Albert Einstein. But his brother was really funny too, Super Dave Osborne, and I think he died just within the past couple or few years. And Albert Brooks is still alive. But there's a sketch with Liza Minnelli, and it's about miniskirts because they were a thing right about then. And it was about like two couples, and they're getting ready to go out, and like it's like the husband is like, "You're not like going out in that little thing, like that little miniskirt." What a different world that was, where Woody Allen would host a show that looked at was sort of like some of the trends of the year, maybe some of the music like Aretha, and some of the trends with sketches that explore them and stand-up bits. He did a monologue up front, and yeah, really cool. John O said Super Dave was on Tonight Show with Carson. Is that where we would... But didn't he have some show that he appeared on and did sketch-like things? Carol Burnett, all like, Earache My Eye is the title of that song. Yeah, that's what I thought. My mama talking to me, trying to tell me how to live, but I don't listen to her. No, because my head is like a sieve, right? To her to tell me how to live. Let's make a dope deal. Herbert and Ralph, I'm not sure. Earache My Eye, though, yep. Laughing, Carol Burnett, Dean Martin Show, those roasts, Red Skelton, Sid Caesar. I didn't really know that Sid Caesar stuff, Show of Shows, that's a little before me. Like, and the Honeymooners, I didn't really grow up with but I Love Lucy, we totally grew up with, of course. Yeah. Yeah, Late Night, Darla, it's kind of, I guess, but I don't know. It's settled in, like, I guess, are the late night talk shows the equivalent of those Sonny and Cher and Donnie and Marie? Those, there wasn't like sitting at a desk and doing topical jokes, but they did come out and tell some jokes. They're standing, they're always standing in the middle of the stage and telling jokes. And then, yeah, sketch it, but it seems like there was more variety. It wasn't just interviews, but they did have interviews. I remember, one thing I remember was from an episode of the Sonny and Cher show. And I remember Elton John was on. And I think it was when his cover of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds was the hit. And I remember that, Elton doesn't sing with an English accent. So I had heard some Elton John songs, but then when this was like the first time I heard him talking to Cher, and he had this outrageous English accent, but it was nothing like the voice he sang in. And I remember just like going, what? What's going on here? What is this? What did he sound? Because that's not how he sounded like in your song. He doesn't sound English. And I don't know what's behind that, except that I know that Elton and Bernie Taupin, his lyricist too, they liked really Americana, and they liked American, early roots American music. Bob Einstein was Albert's brother. Dave Einstein wrote for the Smothers Brothers. Okay. Flip Wilson, I remember Flip Wilson. Sounds like an idea for this show. Flip Wilson? Geraldine. Ernie Kovacs was surreal and way ahead of his time. He's someone that some years ago I watched a little of him. I'm largely were you watching him when you were a kid? Oh yeah, then we were also, at a certain point back then, junior high and high school, Monty Python and, the Benny Hill show. Really liked the Monty Python show and really liked Benny Hill. Late Night has a somewhat different format, content similar. Kind of, they have a monologue, a band, guest. I guess so. But I don't know, it just felt different. Also, really different to have your hosts be Sonny and Cher, or the Smothers Brothers, or Donnie and Marie Osmond, instead of just whoever these hosts are now, So, I knew that it was a risk, that I was losing my voice before I even started, and here we are 3 hours later, just the few of us. Let's call it a night, because I was gonna try to get, but now I'm not gonna, because now it's 12:20. I should, but you know how it is. Hey, John and Paul, we work at night, and we're not ready to crash right after we do a show, because your day is sort of designed around, you want to be peaking when you're on stage. So if you peak when you're on stage, well, you're not going to crash right after that. You ride that high for a while and you're amped up and you don't feel like going to bed right away. And so you end up staying up really late, sleeping in really late, so that you can be in peak performance at that nighttime slot. What about the British shows? I think the only ones I really knew were Monty Python and Benny Hill. I didn't know that Rowan Atkins stuff. If that goes back as far, Blackadder or something. Cancel that, haha. Always look on the bright side of life. I still need, and I still don't really know Faulty Towers, and I really don't know the Blackadder. And I feel like, will I appreciate the Blackadder if my knowledge of history is non-existent? John, you feel guilty if you go to sleep before 1? Why? Like, you can feel good about waking up early in the morning and getting a lot of stuff done. I watch it there too. I just never set up a channel, so I can't comment. I don't know what... Oh, Bo, are you responding to something John said to you a long time ago? While you've been absent? I loved Blackadder. We didn't watch a lot of British stuff growing up. Yeah, oh my God. Have we talked about... There's a show... Do you know these two shows by these two guys? That Mitchell and Webb Look is their sketch comedy show. And Peep Show. Oh my God. First of all, that Mitchell and Webb... Wait, it's called... Did I say that Mitchell and Webb Look? Because I think that's what it's called. That Mitchell and Webb Look. You know this Battlefield sketch where these two Nazis are talking and one says to the other, "Are we the baddies?" Those guys are hilarious. And this sitcom they did called Peep Show. How many people know Peep Show? The only reason I found it is one time I flew on an international flight, and it was a Virgin Atlantic flight. And I looked at the entertainment options, and I decided to check out there was all this British stuff I never heard of. I had never heard of this, so I go Peep Show. And I watched the first couple episodes, and I thought it was hilarious. And then I came home, and it was in days that I was downloading torrents, and I just burned through them, because that was the only way to see it then. But Peep Show is currently on either Netflix or Amazon, I think. But oh my God, Peep Show is hilarious. And let it get going. Get to know the characters. It's very funny. And the two lead guys, they also have a sketch show. And I haven't seen enough of that, and it's great. And you know who else I really don't know? What's his play? Fry and Laurie. That's before me, and I've never explored that, so I know a little bit of Stephen Fry. I've never watched House. I've never seen a full episode of House, so I don't even know that bit of... Hey, has anyone watched the new Hugh Laurie show, that sci-fi one, the sci-fi comedy? What is it? Fifth Avenue or something? What is it? Is it on HBO, or I don't even know, but Hugh Laurie stars in... Doesn't he? In some new sci-fi comedy? I still don't know enough Lenny Bruce. You know, coming to Lenny Bruce after Bill Hicks and after George Carlin and after Richard Pryor and all these people, the first stuff I listened to of Lenny Bruce, it was like hard for me to appreciate. So I still owe Lenny Bruce a deep dive. And Hugh and Laurie, I'm very interested in. And you know what? Albert and Mark, Billy Buxbaum, he is a huge Anglophile, and he lived in London for 7 years, and he loves a lot of this stuff. He also told me that, did you know that Dudley Moore and Peter Cook used to be a comedy duo, a raunchy, filthy comedy duo called... I had it a minute ago, but Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, Clive and Derek and Clive. And I think he played me a couple little things, but I mean, it's filthy and he loves it. And it's very old, early Peter Cook and Dudley Moore. So does anyone know Avenue 5? That is a weird, it's bizarre. The Mighty Boosh, you know, I checked out around the time that I was getting into something else British, probably the Peep Show and that Mitchell and Webb. I think I checked out the Mighty Boosh and I didn't get it. But I didn't give it much of a chance. Some comments I missed. John, I should be doing things instead of sleeping. It's when I do my best work. Yeah. I understand. Hulu. NetReamer. Okay, I think it's late enough to say it, but I don't recall tonight's Not a Show including even a mention of Queen or Brian May or PKD. Am I wrong? Have I said anything about Freddie Mercury, Queen? Have I mentioned Brian May? Philip K. Dick? No, even though I just watched the season finale of Westworld last night, so that's in my mind. Philip K. Dick is in my head yesterday and today, but I don't remember mentioning Dick. I don't remember saying Dick about May. Noel Fielding, I don't know him. I know his face, but Derek and Clive were huge. One-legged Tarzan. My Big Fat Quiz Show is hilarious. Yeah, that looks funny. Cook and Moore's One-Legged Tarzan is a classic bit. Oh, okay. That sounds funny. Got a link? Send us a link. Oh, you're not allowed to post links. I wish we could fix that. There's the We're the Champions photo in the background. Oh, well, actually, that technically that's not really the cover. It's the original art by the same artist who they hired to make the cover, but originally it was this. It was the cover of that science fiction magazine. I got to rearrange things so we can see him a little better. But they hired the same artist, and then although it's pretty similar, the robot is identical, but there's this like weird man in a uniform. That became one of the members of Queen, and another one was Falling. So, and he did some other album art for it. So yeah, that is there, but that's not all. I mean, Brian May, Paul, you may not know this if you're new to me, but that right there is a little mini Brian May guitar, and this is a stereoscope that was designed by Brian May and came in one of his books. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else visible. But well, there you go, David. You did it. Did anyone see this? You know, Brian May, since you bring him up, on Instagram, he's very active on Instagram, and one thing he's been doing a lot of stuff during the quarantine and the lockdown, and he's been playing music. And some of the stuff he's been playing, sometimes he's just sort of jamming or playing a song, and then he sometimes shows some chords. And he's played some old songs too, covers other people's stuff. One day he played You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. He played a Beatles song, and he did some older stuff. But he started doing some things where, because people would take, like he played Keep Yourself Alive, an old Queen song, and then other people would take that video and add them and then jam along with him. So then he started doing that. He started playing like a rhythm of something, and my friend suggested that he do a hashtag jam with Bri. And so he started encouraging that. He would purposely play something that was just the rhythm so that other people could play along. Well, then that put them on the path to, one day he did We're the Champions, but via Zoom or something, he had Roger Taylor, the drummer from Queen, join him. And then they added Adam Lambert singing. And then they tweaked the lyrics, and in the last verse, instead of saying "We're the Champions," Adam sings "You are the champions." and they made a version and they made a new video. They actually recorded that. The bass player that tours with them now added bass to it later. They mastered it. They put it out just about a week ago, not even a week ago. And it's on Spotify and you can buy it, and all the proceeds are going to a group. It's all the You Are the Champions. It's the video is aimed at healthcare workers, and they gave all the profits from it are going to an organization and helping healthcare workers. So there. No Brian May at all. Inconceivable. You like the Westworld finale? You know, that the show, it seemed like that the show could end there. I wonder if they did that where if they didn't get picked up, like they are picked up for another season. But it felt like, it's like, where's it going to go from here? It's hard to imagine. So we'll see. I've been liking it. Larry David and Michael Richards were both on Fridays. Oh, SCTV. That's right. So Monty Python, there was the early SNL. Used to watch SNL religiously. And there was Second City Television back then. Denise? Mark, I forgot to mention Shuba and Brian May doing songs together on YouTube. Shuba? I don't know Shuba. What is that? Doing songs together, is this something that they're doing now or is it old? Who is Shuba? You're gonna make me look it up right now? Hammer to Fall and Brian May. Oh. Okay, so whoever Shuba is just did that, Jam with Bry. She just took his videos and added herself to them? But who is this Shuba that you speak of? Yeah, I just Googled Shuba and Brian May and I see a bunch of results. And there's the chords to Hammer to Fall. Well, anyway, you guys, for whatever reason, we never dropped a frame. We did have that other weird thing. We might still be in sync. And let me just pull up the Yeti and do a final. And one more time with the doubled voice. Totally looks in sync. Let me hear this part. Okay, so you know, what that's all about is I'm still very frustrated because I never solved this tech problem, but I'm using a workaround that it's fine, I guess. If it works, it works. But I don't understand why the way that the normal way is supposed to work. So I'm always gonna be a little upset about this. But if this other device comes in, it's gonna make things a lot easier. I'm gonna have to order some cables in anticipation of some of this other gear coming, because it's not coming with cables. And I'm gonna need another machine. So, hey, you guys, if you can help me, if I can figure out how to get an operating system onto a thumb drive or an external drive or something, then maybe I can install an OS on her machine. And her machine can run Skype the way I want to run it, assuming that if there's a problem with the drive, then it's a problem. But if it was just the OS that was corrupt in some way or some software problem, I'll be all set to go as soon as I get some capture devices here. And then we're going to take things to a new level. You know what? This is what we're going to see some things where it looks like this, like not where it's this. It's me talking to somebody else, somewhere else, not here, doing an interview. I can't make them look at each other unless I make one. I wonder if it's possible to make one of these images a mirror image. Hang on. Let's see. Ah. Oh, but it has to be that way. That I can't see it, but this way I can. Right? If it was delayed, I can check it when it gets to this part. So, Brian. Yes, Brian? How are you, Brian? Did that work? That doesn't. All right. You know what this OBS does not have is an undo. Oh, there is a multi-view. That's interesting. Transform. I just have to go back and do it again. Flip horizontal. Okay. And it even stayed within its little box and everything. Not bad. Because, you know, this is composited. Darla, are you out there? You know, we have the video here, and then this frame is a thing, and then I can't reach out there, but the motion graphic in the background. And we're gearing up, but I do have to knock out all these Sigma Xi videos, so we'll see how much I can get done this week. But yeah, I got to get some sleep too, because tomorrow I have to be up bright and early and online at 12:30. I have to be ready. So, vaping and e-cigarettes tomorrow, 12:30 Eastern. You do the math. 12:30, 11:30, 10:30, 9:30. Wait, did I do that? 12, 11, 10, 9. Any final comments, anybody? Roseanne had a sketch show. Roseanne had a I'm glad you mentioned that, because Roseanne very briefly had a sketch show, and one of the cast members was a friend of mine named Bob Rubin, who I love so much. And this month, his first Netflix special is going to premiere. I wonder, did I put it in my calendar? May. Yes, 2 weeks from tonight, on May 19th, Bob Rubin, nice Jewish fella. He was a San Francisco comic, and oh my God, he's just so weird and brilliant and funny, and I love him. And as a person and as a comedian, he's very different. I have no idea what his Netflix special will be like, because I haven't seen his act in so many years. But I love him, and I want you to support him. So on Netflix, so Bob was a cast member on that Roseanne sketch show, and I remember he did one really funny sketch. You might be able to find it on YouTube, where he played, I think he plays Moses, and he has the 10 Commandments. And oh my God, he's a great Moses, and he's really surreal. So Bob Rubin, I'm hoping his Netflix special is awesome and takes him to a new level. Long overdue, because apparently he was really big in San Francisco. Before I moved to San Francisco, he was one of the big comics on the scene. He was always on the radio. There was a radio show that featured comics a lot there. And everyone thought after Robin Williams made it big that Bob, this is how I hear it, they all thought Bob was going to be the next one to break in a really big way. And he didn't get that big break, but holy crap, when I got there and I saw his stuff's amazing to me. And you know what? I have in my archives, I have video of some really interesting comics a long time ago. And eventually when we get things rolling here, I'll have to bring out stuff like that and show you comedy clips. Like, if you like Mitch, there was a time he came to the San Francisco Punchline and he was middling for Dave Attell. We were he was one of my best friends at the time, so they didn't put up middle acts, so he crashed at my place, and I shot his 2 sets. So I have these 2 sets before he was headlining clubs. I have good video of 2 middle sets from one Friday or Saturday night with Dave Attell. And in fact, when his set is over, Dave Attell takes the stage, and one of the first things he says is, "Turn off the camera." Mark, when you say they're doing it remotely, I think they're not. I don't think they're doing it unless you're telling me that they actually did it. I think Brian put out the video, and it looks like she just took those video. Hammer to Fall. He didn't do that with her. He just put that video out, and a lot of people took it and played along with it. So they didn't do it together online. He provided these videos, and a lot of people took them and then jammed along with him. Brian May. Have a great interview. Yeah, that should be fun. I expect to learn something from that. Hey, Albert. Hey, Gretchen. Good night. I didn't know you were out there. Gretchen, if you're still out there, most of these comments have been over on YouTube, and I encourage you to, I'm Science Comedian on YouTube, and catch these over on my YouTube channel. Oh, let me see. Yeah, I'm facing each other. Albert, do you have any specific questions about, I mean, she's going to give a talk. There might be some redundancy because she's going to give a talk, but then I'm going to do an interview with her, and later that interview is going to be standalone. Check back with me in 2 weeks, still, if I'm still alive. So, she's going to give a talk, but in my interview with her, we'll probably go over some of the stuff in the talk, but hopefully I'll ask her some stuff she didn't get to. But the interview is going to be a standalone video later, I think. So it's okay if it's really cool stuff that she said in the talk, I may want her to say again in the interview. You like that mirror image? 10:30 is pretty early, I know. The Rube, Paul, you know Paul? Oh my God. Bob Rubin and I had a lot of fun experiences in San Francisco. He's the best. Oh, he was a writer for the sketch show and a performer. Good night, everyone. Good seeing you all. Alex Bennett is living here in Harlem doing a show on Facebook. Yeah. So, Paul, you may have heard me mention that 20 years ago I had a live streaming video talk show. It was with Alex Bennett. It was in San Francisco, and we were on a network that there were 6 shows, and we each did a 2-hour daily show, and I did it out of Alex's space. So for a year and a half, a year and a half, I kind of worked alongside Alex Bennett. So you're familiar with him too. So you're in New York and in Harlem, and he's been into streaming video for at least these 20 years, and he's kept up with it. So I haven't seen what every once in a while I see one of his things pop up, but I haven't stuck around to see what he's doing. And I'll try to find some Bob Rubin stuff. The thing is, it's on old formats. It's gonna have to be captured. God, all these capture cards, oh my God. One of these, I think I need to get something, I'm getting all these things that capture HDMI, I need another thing to capture. Hey, NetReamer, if you're still out there, are you still out there? I still have that machine that you helped me configure with the capture card. Before I moved from San Francisco to Raleigh, I used that to capture so much stuff I had on VHS, including all of my old shows from Play TV. And so I could dispose of a lot of the tapes. I digitized a ton of stuff. So if that old PC could still fire up, I could use it. But what I really need is to grab a capture card that brings in something else besides HDMI. I'm gonna have to go check those cameras and see the outputs, but they're regular like RCA, I think. Paul, it'll take a while because I have to find the tapes, and then I have to. Right now, I'm not set up. I have to capture them and digitize them, so they're not digital. But I want to see them too. There will be a bonus 1-hour special about veteran comedian Bob Rubin. Oddities and Rarities, hosted by Patton? Really? You know what? It's really unfortunate that Bob didn't talk to me about this because I have some of his old classic bits. I have, I think, some decent recordings of some of his old classic stuff. His 2 previous specials, Talking for Clapping and Annihilation, are also available on Netflix. I don't remember those. Those don't sound familiar to me. Mel Brooks and the 10 Commandments. These 10 Commandments. Hey, John, you're doing the Jewish jokes. Maybe so, but she says, are you ready, Dr. May, before they start? Well, I'm sure she does, but that's the same as, after all this comedy talk, this is just a version of that. Because does he say, I'm ready, Shuba? I suspect he doesn't talk to her, but he talks to the audience a little. He says, ready, and he starts. But I'll check them out, but I'm pretty sure that it's just that, and a lot of other people did the same. I met him a few times, yeah. Stephen Pearl on Alex's show. Albert, were you looking? Believe me, I know. But today I placed orders. For one thing, this Blackmagic A10 Mini Pro, it's a 4-channel mixer. It has 4 HDMI inputs, and it's pretty powerful machine. That in fact, it maybe can replace all of this stuff. It can encode and stream itself in the Pro version, but it's basically a 4-channel video mixer that it's gonna have a little bit of a learning curve, but then it comes in USB. The Pro version is now its own streaming device, so I might have to explore that. But there's the way I really want to use it is to bring in more sources into the software that I'm using here. So for instance, I could bring in this camera and bring in Skype and use this software to do this. But this is a thing that can probably also be done in that 4-channel, but it's gonna be a while for me to figure it out. But right now, I could use that to bring in sources and feed them into this, and a lot of the processing could be done on that device, and then this should be able to handle that. So, oh, Albert, every HDMI capture device, I've scoured the web, and everything's on back order. But today I ordered that device, and I think I ordered 3 other HDMI capture devices that were cheaper ones. And I'm hedging my bets with different vendors. And in the end, I might need multiple devices, and I want to see which of these is good, because they vary from about $100 or $129 to $300, or this device, the normal one, is $300 and $600. So that's not a capture device, that's a switcher. But the capture devices, some of them are $300, some of them are $100. But, I have a little fear that the cheap ones might not be satisfactory. Stephen Pearl, I don't know him. He's just a name and a face to me. And Paul, you said where, but I don't know what you're talking about. Old Testament, 2,000-year-old man, scratch the talking for clapping annihilation. Those are patents. Okay. But Bob having oddities and rarities, I have some oddities and rarities. See, I don't know what his special is going to be, and it'll likely be newer stuff, but oh my God, his old stuff, it's so surreal and so weird. I can't do it justice. I think I quoted a couple of his jokes to you guys a while back, but I can only remember the simple jokes. Most of his material you can't repeat because it's weird and long and surreal and just beautiful. I love it. Oh, the Bob Doc. So it's Netflix. 2 weeks from tonight, the 19th, his special premieres, and I guess they'll always also be providing this oddities and rarities. Netflix. All right. Let's call it a night. What do you say? It's very late. We did not need to do this, but it has been a good test of the tech. And Albert, were you looking for? Let's talk offline. Were you looking for capture devices? Because I should let you know that if you find some stuff, I have some needs. Maybe I should tell you the other things I'm looking for in terms of machines. Because any advice or just in case you see something. Everyone is saying goodnight. Okay, good night, Albert. Good night, Darla. Good night, Paul. Nice chatting with you. John, thanks for stopping by. Susan. Mark. Whoever's still out there. Denise. There's your name, Denise. Everybody, thank you so much. And get some sleep. We'll do this again. Surely we'll do this again. Let me change something real quick. There. All right, I'm going to fade away. Oh, yeah, right. I forgot. I can do that. Good night, John. Good night, John boy. Skinny. Thanks for coming by. See you next time. Depends how tomorrow, maybe. Depends how much work I get done. Let's see. But I feel good about it. We'll be back soon.